In the early hours of July 11th, 2017, Chloe Ayling, a 20-year-old British glamour and page 3 model, arrived at a studio in Milan, Italy's fashion capital, for what she believed was going to be a leather-clad, motorcycle-themed photo shoot. But instead, by the end of the day, she would be drugged with ketamine, stuffed into the trunk of a car, stuffed into a bag, driven across northern Italy by a man claiming to be part of a shadowy criminal organization known as Black Death, an organization of nefarious agents spread out across Europe that was going to sell her into sexual slavery via a dark web auction being held in just a few days' time, unless she could come up with several $100,000 that she did not have in ransom money. Italian investigators and their British counterparts, and then the public at large, will struggle mightily to make sense of this story. When she makes it out alive, journalists will zero in on some of Chloe's seemingly strange behavior witnessed during her captivity and directly following her release, and the British public will ridicule her. Many will question whether a kidnapping had ever occurred, or if Chloe Ayling's abduction had actually been a staged publicity stunt. What if the two men arrested for the crime were not her captors after all, but instead were her accomplices? So what really happened in Italy that summer? Was this a failed human trafficking attempt, a bizarre ploy of love and obsession, or an elaborate publicity stunt that spiraled out of control? Today, we are diving into the highly entertaining and very unusual story of the abduction of Chloe Ayling, where the line between victim and suspect was blurred for so long by so many, and still is today by some, on this true crime or is it fake crime edition of Timesuck.
This is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to Timesuck.
You're listening to Timesuck.
Well, happy Monday. Welcome back to the Cult of the Curious. I'm Dan Cummins, the Suckmaster, Dan of God, Nova Scotia Royal Canadian Mounted Police Auditor. And you are listening to Timesuck. Hail Nimrod, hail Lucifina, praise be to good boy Bojangles, and glory be to Triple M. One quick announcement. Well, you know what? It's a little bit of a longer announcement. And then we were off into the story. If you are thinking of attending the Wet Hot Bad Magic Summer Camp this fall, you're going to want to get your tickets soon. Because this year will be the last year we were ever going to hold the Wet Hot Bad Magic Summer Camp. I know, not the greatest announcement to start off the show, but also only one more of these makes this next one that more special. Here's the reality of it. Our first camp hosted a little over 500 people. But each year, the attendance has dwindled a bit. This year, we have around 300 campers as I record this. We've had a lot of the same people keep coming back, which I think speaks to how fun this event has been. But those same people can't keep coming back every year. It's just not financially responsible for us to keep taking this big risk going forward. And I'm not actually upset about it. I mean, I'm a little bit sad, sure, but also so grateful, way more grateful than sad. I'm grateful that we were ever able to pull it off even one time. Camp is a huge ask. It's not just the cost of the ticket. It's also transportation, time off of work, days spent away from your family, which could also mean incurring childcare costs, giving up PTO for a vacation with us instead of somebody else. We know that we've been asking a lot of you year over year, and travel costs have gone up a lot more recently and might not be going down anytime soon. And also, all good things come to an end. It is just the natural cycle of life. And sometimes, though, when one thing ends, something else begins, something really cool. Another reason for wrapping camp up this year is a selfish one on my part. I want to be focusing more on fiction, on creating stories, starting next year. I've been very creatively inspired. Writing nightmare fuel short stories over on the Scared to Death feed is where we've been releasing them. I thought I would like writing them when I started working on them a little over 2 years ago as an experiment. Well, I like it way, way more than I ever hoped I would. And the feedback has been tremendous. I want to start writing books. I want to start doing more with these stories, converting them into different formats. But to do that, I need a lot more time. Time I definitely do not have right now. Camp after this year will partially be a casualty of me creating more space for something new. But that said, I am so looking forward to camp this year. I truly am. Every year, so many special moments have been made. I expect no difference this fall. No different. So if coming to camp this year is an option for you, or if we're really hoping to come to camp at some point in the future, well, you're going to want to do it now. If you want to join us for the final camp hurrah, the big blowout, tickets are still available until August 3rd. Camp is going to be September 10th through the 13th in Equinunk, Pennsylvania. I think Woodstock of the famed music festival. It's nearby that. We will be there full of gratitude for the years of memories made. It's going to be fucking awesome. It really is such a unique and special event. I don't know of any other podcasts who have put together something like this, over and over. And again, I'm so grateful that we were ever able to do it even one time. So huge thank you to everyone who has come in years past and everyone who will be coming this year. I hope some of you will end up enjoying some of the new things I will be working on starting next year. I have a really good feeling about them. Sorry to be a little cryptic, but I don't want to share any more about next year right now. Please go to badmagicproductions.com, scroll on down to the graphic for Wet Hot Bad Magic Summer Camp 26 to learn more if you are interested. Okay, I know that was a lot, but now let's dig into another wild one. Not going to say much before the timeline today. If you haven't heard of this story, if you're not familiar with it, I think this is going to be more entertaining than if you had. It'll be captivating, very confusing in moments, but by the end, I think you'll be like, oh, okay. Now it all makes sense. Holy shit. If you've heard of this before, I think you'll find new details about this story revealed here that didn't make the final cut in various docuseries and other media about this all. It is such a ridiculous story. And I'll tell it all chronologically in today's Timesuck timeline.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a Timesuck timeline.
Chloe Ayling was born on July 14th, 1997 in Colston, a town of about 25,000 people in the South London borough of Croydon. While Croydon itself has a lingering reputation for being a little rough around the edges, Colston is generally seen as a quieter, more pleasant commuter town. It's quaint. It's right on the very outer edge of Greater London, so while it is technically inside of the London metro area, it is not the London that most of us probably picture. This is not an urban area. It's decidedly suburban, teetering towards rural along its outer edge. It sits very close to the ceremonial county of Surrey, a county bordered by the Greater London to the northeast, and therefore its residents have quick and easy access to the countryside, to golf clubs, the woods, a bunch of British pubs. But nearly everybody in England has access to a bunch of British pubs, I guess. Chloe's mother, Beata, is Polish. Her father is English, but he wasn't in the picture for most of Chloe's life. In fact, he largely abandoned Chloe and her mother and didn't get back in touch until Chloe Ayling started making all the newspaper articles and TV shows because of this abduction. So he sounds like a really cool dude. What? My daughter's famous now? Oh, shit. Well, I guess she might be worth checking in with. Wow, maybe she's rich, too. Papa needs a new pair of shoes. I would share his name, but his identity has never been publicly revealed. So Chloe was raised by a single mom, a Polish single mom. So you know that life was super hard for her. She was essentially raised by wolves, or rather a wolf, someone mentally incapable of fully learning a human language, someone barely able to walk upright, more beast than human, a creature of the night who undoubtedly ate mostly raw meat, shit in the yard, and literally howled at the moon. No, actually, her mom has seemed to be consistently awesome. Hardworking, caring, smart, attentive, strong, beautiful woman, and hot. I love the way so many Polish women look. My Polish Lucifina, Lindsay, being at the top of the list. What is it about Polish women? I swear I didn't know, that Chloe was Polish before deciding to do this topic, by the way. Had not heard of this tale before a researcher suggested it. Anyway, Chloe and her mom are but a few of many Poles around London. The Polish community actually currently forms one of the largest foreign-born populations in the entire country. Estimates range between 650 to 750,000 Polish citizens currently living across the UK, with the vast majority residing in England and the largest concentration in the capital where roughly 127,000 Polish nationals live, right there in London. Massive wave of migration began after Poland joined the EU, the European Union, in 2004, 7 years after Chloe was born, when the UK immediately opened its borders to Polish workers. Now, enough Pole talk. This isn't the fucking Pole Talk cast, okay? Despite Dad not being in the picture, she, her mom, and others have said that she was a very, very happy child. Always giggling, always smiling, the sort of kid who made adults stop and comment on how cheerful she was. Chloe's primary school teacher even used to call her Smile. Pretty adorable. It was a fitting nickname because Chloe rarely cried. She found crying to be very embarrassing. And if she did need to shed a tear, she would typically wait until she could be behind closed doors and alone so no one else would see her. Chloe also didn't read people the way other kids did when she was very young, the way most other kids did. She didn't pick up on the hints and social cues that most of the kids around her, noticed and picked up on. She needed everything spelled out very directly, not good with sarcasm or absurdity. Her mom would accompany her on school field trips when she was little, partially because she was worried that her daughter would not be able to properly communicate what she needed, or even realize if she was in trouble. Chloe herself said that when she was a kid, somebody could tell her off, right? They could blatantly bully her, and she would be blissfully unaware of that fact and just smile back at them. More on why she is emotionally and mentally wired like this at the end of the episode. As a teenager, Chloe, an only child, by the way, attended Woodcote High School in South Croydon. She did well there. She got good grades. The only subject she failed was history, which she later has said that she hated. She found it to be painfully boring. And I do get that. I love history, but I will say there are definitely some boring-ass history teachers out there, which is a shame. And sometimes not their fault, because they're handcuffed by their, administration, by what they're allowed to kind of teach and how to teach it. And it's a bummer because so much of history is so naturally exciting and wildly intriguing. Like you have to fucking work hard to suck the fun and interesting aspects out of a history lesson. Chloe said she would sit in history class, staring at the clock, waiting for it to be over. She did not see the point in studying the past. She preferred to focus on the future. No, Chloe, no. You got look into the past. It can actually help with the future, help you predict it, help you understand the present as well, right? It can help you handle adversity as you look forward, as you realize no struggle is truly new and patterns repeat. Growing up, as Chloe began to read people a little better, she began to tend to deal with problems in a very matter-of-fact way. She was a problem solver who did not get caught up in emotion. She did not dwell on things, tended not to overthink or sit with uncomfortable emotions. In fact, she hated talking about big feelings and preferred to keep everything happy and surface level. It was at Woodcote where Chloe met her best friend, Tony. The two girls quickly became inseparable. They were like sisters and came up with matching nicknames for each other. Chloe called Tony Toenail, and Tony called Chloe Clonail. Love a good nickname, right? Solid work. In high school, Chloe became the kind of girl, not surprising at all for a future model, who put a lot of time and energy into her appearance. She carefully styled her hair every single day before school, getting her makeup just right as well. She would transform her long blonde hair into a quiff hairstyle, which was, very popular in the 2010s. If you would have asked Chloe back then what she wanted to be when she finished school, she would have told you without hesitation that she wanted to be a successful model, that she wanted at least 100,000 followers, that she wanted to travel and see the world's most beautiful places, that she wanted to make her own money and a bunch of it. One of those people, rare in my experience, who knew who they were, knew what they wanted to be, what they wanted out of life, at an early age. Growing up in Colston, Chloe would walk her dogs around the streets of the, suburbs and up into Surrey and look at all the grand houses with pillars. She loved big houses with pillars specifically. She would look at them and think, I want one of those. And unlike some people, she actually believed that she could get one of those. Her mantra was that if you want something badly enough, you will get it because you will not stop trying and you will not accept anything less. She trusted she could make all her dreams happen. She just had to work hard for them. She was prepared to do whatever it took to become famous. And this open ambition of hers would help lead a lot of people in the wake of her kidnapping to think that she had staged it. She was maybe, according to some people, too honest, too transparent about her ambition. Though better at reading people in high school, she was still far from great at it. She was a beautiful girl, didn't always realize others' intentions towards beautiful girls. When Chloe was around 15, one of her teachers, grown-ass man, obviously, and in a position of authority above her, asked her out to lunch, and she accepted. He picked a quiet table at the back of the restaurant. Luckily, her best friend Tony was a lot more street smart than Chloe was. She came along to keep an eye on things. She immediately thought the situation was bizarre and inappropriate, which it was. It was obvious to everyone that this teacher was what they were trying to do, obvious to everyone except for Chloe. She didn't think there was anything wrong with a male teacher taking his minor female student out to lunch far away from the school, just the two of them, in a little quiet spot. To her, that was just lunch, not an obvious date. She never went anywhere alone with that teacher again after that. Not sure if he ever got into trouble for that. Sadly, probably didn't. Probably just was like, what? Inappropriate? I just wanted to talk to her about her studies. God, you can't put a little extra energy into teaching now, into taking care of kids? Wanted to make sure she felt good about the assignments, Why are we trying to turn this into something it's not? Was hoping to bring her back to my place where we could talk about school in private, without the distraction of our clothes. Other people around. Chloe's described herself back then as being incredibly naive. She truly believed that the world was full of mostly good, kind people. She thought that if she just stayed out of people's way, didn't bother them, then nothing bad would happen to her. That worldview lasted through most of her teenage years. Lasted until she started modeling. And then things changed rather quickly. Before modeling, not long before, at the age of 16, Chloe completed her GCSEs, the UK's main standardized exams, roughly equivalent to finishing 10th grade here in the States, and then moved on to what's called sixth form, where British students spend 2 years studying just a handful of subjects before university. With hopes of becoming a lawyer, if her modeling career didn't take off, she chose law, business, and psychology. But Chloe wouldn't finish. Life had other plans. In early 2015, she got pregnant. The summer before her final year of high school, while on holiday in Spain, she'd met a man named Connor Keyes, a carpet fitter from the UK. Sounds like he's about the same age as her from references to him made in the media. Within a year of her age, sounds like, so they were both kids. The two had an on-again, off-again dalliance. By the middle of 2015, the relationship was over, roughly 6 months after Ashton was born. Some sources say they broke up earlier than that, before she gave birth. So I guess that would have been, they broke up between the middle of 2015 and early 2016, actually. In November of 2015, Chloe had Ashton when she's still 17. And her and Connor, since the breakup, have shared custody maybe evenly, I think. Probably. There was a lot of British tabloid speculation about all this, including about exactly when she had her kid. According to an article in the UK's Daily Star, Connor has largely raised Ashton, or at least was mostly raising him back in 2017. He was quoted as saying shortly after her kidnapping that year, she can come and see him whenever she wants to, but the thing is, I am still waiting for her to do that. And he also maybe said she wants to be a model and she can't do it when she's 40. But for now, she's young and dumb. Since I was with her, she has changed. She's already doing stuff that she didn't when I was with her. Did he really say that? Is that true? The Daily Star is like the U.S.'s Star magazine when it comes to its level of journalistic integrity. Maybe slightly more reliable than like the Weekly World News. In a UK Daily Mail interview, another tabloid, there's so many fucking tabloids in the UK, Mr. Keyes described Chloe as being, quote, 100% focused on her modeling career and said that their son Ashton spends much of his time with him because Miss Ayling is often too busy abroad on photo shoots. So maybe that shit was true. Or maybe he's a fucking loser and is jealous of her and spiteful. Who knows? Regardless of the custody situation, studying on top of trying to raise a child and start a modeling career proved too much for Chloe and she failed her A-levels. A legal career now off the table, at least for the moment, so she decided to really get serious about modeling. However, even when her body had returned to its pre-pregnancy shape, there was still a big problem for her modeling career. At 5'6", Chloe, 2 inches below the industry minimum for women looking for runway and high fashion work. She is also quite curvy, which is frowned upon for high fashion cover models. One of the reasons I've always found girl next door types, non-runway models, actually far more attractive and sexy than runway models. If you're a runway model, no offense, obviously most of the world thinks you're incredibly gorgeous. I don't think you're fucking ugly at all. You're far more attractive than I am. Just not my type, right? I recognize, again, runway models often very beautiful, just not the look for me. Isn't it wonderful, by the way, that beauty is so subjective for all of us? Anyone struggling with their self-esteem, appearance-wise, man or woman, just remember that, right? You don't need to conform to somebody else's look, to some other standard. You need to find somebody who loves your look. And they are out there, beating off or diddling away to thoughts of your sweet naked ass. whatever size it happens to be right now. So go fucking get it. Just have good hygiene. Put a little effort into your appearance. Have some pride. Just fuck that shit about it, about pride coming before a fall. Have a little pride. And go get it! Anyway, for Chloe, her lack of height and having, hips and boobs meant that a modeling career in glossy magazines, haute couture, on catwalks was pretty unlikely. Most agents wouldn't even consider her for that. Fortunately, modeling, not just high fashion runways, there's all sorts of modeling. Hand modeling. Do you guys know I was a hand model? I wasn't. Fitness modeling. Did you know I was a fitness model? You knew I wasn't. Glamour modeling. And that's what Chloe chose, for which Chloe, a curvy figure, blonde hair, was a natural fit. In this kind of modeling, the goal is not to sell clothes, it's to sell the fantasy of the person wearing them. Lingerie shoots, swimwear campaigns, men's magazines, calendars, topless stuff, maybe fully nude stuff. Chloe started doing test shoots, built up a portfolio, signed with her first agency, and quickly became high in demand. Chloe's first major break came in December of 2016 when she appeared in a YouTube video on the JMX YouTube channel titled "One Goal Equals Remove One Piece of Clothing Football Challenge." 17 million views as of this recording. Probably infuriating a lot of content creators out there, right? People spend fucking years putting together a stand-up special or, all this time creating a song and an awesome music video. And they're like, oh my God, 1 million views is fucking incredible. This guy's like, I'm going to play a fucking strip soccer match with just me and a buddy and 2 girls, 17 million views. Nothing will ever sell better than sex. In the video, Chloe along with another model, they just took turns kicking soccer balls into a goal. It's not even like a good camera they used. There's production value is very low. For every goal they missed, they had to take off an item of clothing. And the video went viral. Some people called it exploitive. Others loved it, but their opinions did not matter to Chloe, who didn't take off much, by the way. Just like her shirt, but she had something else underneath it, a lingerie type of thing. A lacy camisole, I think. I'm not great with identifying various types of clothing. Despite not revealing much, the video going viral in tandem with her personality and natural looks led to her Instagram following exploding. By the time the video had run its course, Chloe had around 200,000 followers. And that led to some amazing new job opportunities. She started booking out a bunch of modeling jobs, making around 600 pounds a day for these jobs at 19 years old, right? That's some serious bank. However, all this newfound attention, came at a cost. According to her buddy Tony, Old Toenail, as Clonail's social media following grew, so did being DM'd by a bunch of creepy, delusional, mostly older men. The kind of guys who think sending a young woman, or any woman, a pic of their dick, along with a not-so-clever line like, want to ride it, or down to fuck, might actually lead to real-life sex. And I'm not kidding. Back in 2016, so around this same time, I was hosting a show down in Los Angeles for the Playboy channel, the Playboy Morning Show. I hosted it in 2015, 2016. We had nude models doing silly, campy games 4 days a week. And the models liked me platonically because I was already dating Lindsay, was engaged actually, and not trying to fuck them. A lot of them, they were really funny, and they would tell me these wild stories, including stories about guys that messaged them all the time. And I was shocked back then to hear these stories. I wasn't jaded by Timesuck yet. But they would tell stories about how many guys, literally sent them pictures of their fucking boners. Just unsolicited photo after unsolicited photo of a weird dude holding his hard dick in his hand, plus some, little message of like, hey, what are you doing? You like what you see? And they weren't joking. They weren't doing it for shock value. They were just like, this is how you flirt. Always a curious person. I asked them all kinds of questions. One being, does that literally ever work? And as best as I can recall, not a single model, and we had dozens and dozens on the show, literally ever went on a single date with the guy who did that. I don't remember a single one of them ever saying that they even liked it, that they liked getting unsolicited pics of dicks. It didn't matter how nice the dick looked. Apparently, if you got a real aesthetic, dick, they still don't want to see it. Not just a random fucking photo, just out of nowhere. Just bam! You want that? You like it? You want to suck it? No, they don't like that. Not once were they like, oh, mama like, I wasn't horny a moment ago. But after seeing that unsolicited hard cock, ooh, mama's about to drown these jeans. By 2017, Chloe she's getting some fame, on the internet. She'd signed with Supermodel Agency in London, a supermodel agency founded by Phil Green in 1987, represented glamour and commercial models, promotional personnel, actors across the UK. Many of its higher profile models also doubled as influencers as the internet is changing. So it was a perfect fit for Chloe. And Chloe and her agent Phil quickly became close. To Chloe, Phil was a father figure. He offered the kind of stability and older male wisdom that she had not had growing up, that she craved. She said she trusted him completely. And it does seem like maybe he's a good guy. At least not. He doesn't seem like a terrible guy. There are for sure a lot of Harvey Weinstein type creeps amongst modeling agents and producers. I got a lot of those stories too from the models I used to work with. Sadly, wasn't surprised, but I can't find any dirt on Phil Green. And he's been doing it a long, long time. Still, Chloe's trust in him would soon be tested and broken. As her following grew, so did her profile and reputation within the industry. And in February of 2017, less than a year after she had started modeling, Chloe landed her page 3 debut in the Daily Star. For glamour models in the UK back then, page 3 was not just a job. It was, it was a badge of honor, a sign that you had attained a certain level of, fame within that niche industry. The rough equivalent of a Vogue cover for a high fashion editorial model. The shoot was photographed by Jeannie Savage. The blurb on her printed photo shoot read, "Curvy Chloe making her page 3 debut today, and what a frilly thriller she is. The 19-year-old Surrey Sweetie is studying," who fucking writes this? "Studying to be a lawyer, but always had a secret yearning to appear in briefs in your favorite paper." I added that. She's dick laugh. She wasn't actually studying to be a lawyer, by the way, but I guess they thought that sounded cool. The iconic topless page 3 model tradition has largely ended recently in mainstream British print media. The Sun officially stopped publishing topless models in print in 2015. They transitioned to clothed or lingerie-clad photos, which are now primarily hosted on page3.com. And the Daily Star would shift away from topless images to bikini-style shoots in 2019, then officially drop pinup photographs on page 3 entirely. Chloe's debut, page 3, would not be topless. I studied in London for a semester way back in 1997. Yes, I'm ancient. And I distinctly remember flipping through a tabloid and seeing a topless model in print like that for the first time, and my prudish ass being a little embarrassed. And then, of course, later in private, maybe I remember beating off in a bathroom. I was 19, okay? Who am I kidding? I still might sneak into a bathroom with the page 3 pic today. I was shocked, though, that their tabloids sold all over the place to everyone had nudity. Now I think it's probably a better way to go, right? We make nudity too taboo in this country, in my opinion. Makes us, too many of us sex negative, makes nudity seem so shameful, overly secretive. Female and male bodies, just bodies. So many of us are such weird puritanical prudes over here. I know I've said this before, but I stayed with a totally average British family when I studied there, and in the middle of a photo collage of the fam hung on the wall in the living room, mom, dad, 3 kids. There was this one picture of mom on a topless beach. Tits out. Big tits out, I should add. Actually, pretty fucking fantastic. But I thought it was so fucking weird. I remember, there was another American student with me and just, he'd be like, "Dude, what the fuck? Look at this." But the kids didn't think it was weird. No one else in the family thought it was weird. Looking back, they all had a much healthier view of sexuality than I did. I was the weirdo. Anyway, when it came to glamour modeling, the page 3 spot put Chloe on the map. A month later, March of 2017, her agent Phil receives an inquiry from a man calling himself Andre Lazio, claiming to be an Italian photographer who wanted to book Chloe specifically for a motorcycle and leather-themed shoot in Paris. Chloe was absolutely thrilled. Her dreams of being a model traveling the world are coming true. As her agent, Phil, he handles all the logistics, the vetting. He asks Andre all the regular follow-up questions, checks out his website, confirms the studio address, place called Bellissima Magnifique, and requested shoot dates and examples of previous work. The models back at Playboy used to fly around the world for various photo shoots like this as well. Oh man, it used to make me so nervous. Even back then, I guess I had some anxious Papa Bear energy in me. They did not always have agents. They fortunately rarely went alone, usually insisted on going with at least one other model that they knew, but not always. Sometimes they just fucking winged it, got on a plane, flew to some other country, just hoped the fucker, picking them up at the airport wasn't some rapey creep. I mean, I think they usually at least asked for references, contact other models who had worked with them previously, but still, so glad neither one of my kids are doing this kind of work. I don't have moral, sexuality-based judgments about this kind of stuff. I really don't, but on a basic safety level, I would probably be riddled with ulcers My hair would fall out after, a year of just the stress and worry if my kids were doing this. Too many creeps in the world. Green, however, Phil Green had no concerns about Chloe's safety for this particular shoot. Everything looked to be above board. And what's more, Lazio paid part of Chloe's fees and part of the agency's fee, about £900 up front, along with all the travel expenses. Later, though, looking back, there was one detail Phil thought he should have questioned. Of all the bookings Phil Green handled, the Paris job was the only one where the photographer had requested Chloe by name. Usually the way modeling castings normally work, or at least did then, was an agent pitching a selection of models to a photographer. The photographer narrows it down, then multiple girls go out for the same job. A single name request from a first-time booker, highly unusual, especially since Chloe had never worked with this photographer before and wasn't that well known. He hadn't even met her in person. Or had he? On April 20th, 2017, a Thursday, Chloe boarded a flight, flew from London to Paris. She's 19 years old. She hadn't, it doesn't seem, traveled much outside of the country before this point. She's a small person. She is not skilled in self-defense, admittedly naive, still not great at reading people's intentions in social situations, and she's alone, right? Yikes. The photo shoot was scheduled for Friday, so on Thursday she was free to do as she pleased, and she spent it doing what she had always dreamed of doing, exploring a city she had never seen on somebody else's dime, right? So far, so good. But then that evening at around 9 p.m., a gray Audi pulled up alongside a police van on Avenue des Champs-Élysées, a big, broad, famous street known for its theaters, cafes, luxury shops, the Tour de France, the cycling race, for its annual Bastille Day military parades. The driver, 39-year-old Karim Sherfi, stepped out carrying a Kalashnikov gun and shot a police officer twice in the head, killing him before opening fire on surrounding police officers on the pavement, wounding 2 more and then injuring a German tourist. Sherfi then tried to flee on foot, did not make it far before he was shot dead by responding officers. Central Paris goes into lockdown. Metro stations are closed, tourists and locals flee the area, sirens and armed officers are smothering the streets. No one knows if this is part of a bigger coordinated attack or not. Luckily, it was not. Shortly after news of this broke, Chloe's cell phone rings. It's her agent, Phil Green. He had heard there was a terror attack in Paris. He told her to get off the street. And I do love that. Chloe ran to her hotel, which was actually very close to where the shooting had occurred. From her hotel room, she could hear sirens outside. Phil told her to stay inside, and she did. The next day, Andre got in touch. He told Phil he was very sorry, but his studio had been ransacked in the chaos. The photo shoot would have to be rescheduled. There was a taxi on the way to take Chloe to the photo shoot, but now it would instead take her to the airport. Chloe packed up her things, got into the waiting taxi, and then when she arrived at the airport, Andre was waiting for her. He was wearing sunglasses and a hat, handed over 90 pounds in cash to cover some of her expenses. She never really got a proper look at him, and then she went home. Back in England, her life resumed normally. The Paris job was filed away in Chloe's mind as nothing more than bad timing, an unlucky tragedy for those actually caught up in it. Did not impact Chloe emotionally, and she was able to easily put it behind her. But the Daily Star couldn't. The day after the Champs-Élysées attack, they ran a story about the shooting, and to illustrate it, now they used a topless page 3 shot of Chloe. Okay? Headline read, Page 3 model forced to flee Paris's terrorist attack. And then the subheader read, a top Daily Star Page 3 model was left terrified after getting caught up in the drama of the Paris terrorist attack last night. Chloe later insisted that she had no say in this coverage, that she didn't ask for it. They just used a photo of her they'd already taken before the attack that they had rights to. Now it's out there, and soon this will matter more than she could have ever possibly known. Less than 3 months later, in early July of 2017, Andre Lazio, same guy from the Paris shoot, contacts Phil Green again, saying he wants to reschedule the shoot for the 11th of that month. This time, he suggested Milan. He asks Phil again for Chloe's measurements so that he can order more sexy leather clothes for her, and he sends pictures of his new studio with the same Bellissime Magnifique sign. And Andre wrote, I'm looking forward to seeing Chloe in better circumstances than last time. Chloe is stoked. But her mom, Beata, she has a bad feeling about the Milan job. She begs her daughter not to go, but Chloe trusts Phil. This is his industry. He is a veteran, and she trusts his judgment. I'm not sure how old Phil is, but he had founded this agency back in 1987, his agency. So he had been working and modeling for at least 30 years at this point, and probably a lot longer. I imagine he worked for somebody else's agency, built up his name before he ever founded his own agency. Chloe promised her mom that she would send her regular updates throughout the whole trip. And then off she goes. On July 10th, 2017, Chloe, barely 20 years old now, boarded a flight to Milan. When she landed, she checked into the Hotel Galiz, headed out to dinner, had an early night. Day one, everything great. The next morning, July 11th, the day of the scheduled shoot, Chloe wakes up early, makes her way to the studio for an 8:30 a.m. start time. When she arrives, she calls the studio number to let them know she's outside. Man answers. He says his name is Daniel. He tells her that Andre, the photographer, not there yet, but to go ahead and come on in. She hangs up, opens the door to the studio, and steps inside. And then, curiously, no one is there to greet her. This Daniel fella is nowhere to be found. She pauses in the entryway, a little confused, uncertain which door to go through next. And then shit goes off the rails, and her eagerness for her first Italian photo shoot quickly turns into terror. She feels a gloved hand clamp over her nose and mouth from behind. She can't breathe as she sees another man step in front of her, holding a syringe. He's wearing a mask that completely covered his face, both men wearing masks, and both men wearing gloves. He moves to inject her. Chloe panics. She struggles to get the hand off of her face so she can breathe. She's fighting. She's wriggling, doing everything she can to avoid being injected. But again, she's a small human. These are two larger, stronger grown men, and they've snuck up on her, caught her off guard, shocked and confused and terrified her. The last thing she remembers from this interaction clearly is the syringe going into her right forearm. She then feels a bizarre sensation, almost like she's sinking into water, and then shortly after that, she blacks out. What a fucking nightmare. When Chloe regains consciousness, her terror increases. She comes to in the trunk of a car, stuffed inside a black hold-all sports bag. Holy shit. Even more alarmingly, her jeans, shirt, and shoes are gone. She's been undressed. She's also been put into some other clothes. She's now wearing nothing but a pink bodysuit and gray socks. Her wrists and ankles are bound, adhesive tape covers her mouth, and there's only a small breathing hole poked into the bag. Chloe will later say, "I can still remember some parts of it so visually. I was so heavily drugged, but waking up, I can still remember the feeling of, was I on a boat or was I on a ship? Like it was a crazy dream." As Chloe slowly emerges from a drugged unconsciousness, the car winds through unpaved mountain roads, driving from Milan northwestward toward the Piedmont region. Not that she knew any of that at the time. She is fortunately able to move her bound hands up to her face, pulls off the tape, pulls it off her mouth. She can breathe a little more easily. She starts screaming, "Driver! Driver!" Soon the car pulls over and stops. She can see barely a bearded man's face through a tiny opening in the zipper of the bag she's in. And then a few moments later, the bag she's in is unzipped. Two masked, gloved men, same men from before, looking down at her. She starts yelling questions. "Where am I? Why are you doing this? What's happening?" They don't respond. One of them leans forward and again puts tape across her mouth. They tighten the handcuffs on her wrist, zip her back up, slam down the trunk, get back in and start driving again. Soon, she's able to get the tape back off her mouth and she starts yelling again. And once again, they pull over, slow to a stop, open the trunk. She tells them she's thirsty. They open up a bottle of water, pour some of it in her mouth. She is covered in sweat from being stuck inside this fucking bag. Now they take her mostly out of the bag, take off her handcuffs, but then handcuff her again with her arms now behind her back. She gets a glimpse of a partially opened empty black suitcase in the trunk while this is going on, wonders if that's for her. Is her dead body going to be stuffed inside it after she's been raped, tortured, and killed, she wonders? Then they again put tape across her mouth. Same piece of tape from before. And when they start driving again, she basically is able just to move her mouth around and shake it off. After yelling again now, they pull over a third time. And now, this is fucking weird. One of the masked men gets into the trunk with her and is basically spooning her now. So strange. This will all make sense by the end of the episode, at least to me. But what the fuck? Once he's behind her, he also takes off his mask so he can talk to her. He tells her not to worry, that she's not going to be hurt. There's no need to yell. He speaks in broken English, not in an Italian accent, but something else. She asks where they're going. He says he doesn't know. She asks more questions. He continues to say he just doesn't know. And now she starts to cry. He tries to reassure her. "Don't cry. Nobody's going to hurt you. Don't cry." She complains about how bad the handcuffs are hurting her wrist. Still crying, the man in the trunk yells to the driver, "Key, key!" He hands it to him. Now the man takes her off her handcuffs, but says, "Only for journey." Finally, after approximately 2 hours of this driving, the car pulls up into this remote cottage near Viu. a remote alpine Italian village located way up in the mountains around 18 miles northwest of Turin in the Piedmont region, a charming mountain town known for sweeping scenery, hiking trails, access to alpine peaks and lakes. It's an isolated retreat far removed from any urban center. Only about 1,000 people live there. Soon after the car stops, the trunk opens again. Guy with her in the trunk puts his mask back on, gets out. Now the two masked men handcuff Chloe again, stuff her back into the fucking duffel bag, essentially, the big duffel bag, after giving her a few more sips of water. Then they carry her inside the cottage and up some stairs. She's taken into a dimly lit bedroom next to a bathroom. After letting her use the toilet, they then chain her by the wrists and ankles to a heavy wooden chest of drawers in this bedroom. They give her a sleeping bag to lay on top of, and then they leave the room. They lock the bedroom door. She's left alone. They go downstairs, and she hears a bunch of fucking yelling in some other language. She's terrified. She's also somewhat grateful that so far it seems like they have tried to be somewhat gentle and not rough. They had not done anything perverted, hadn't groped her, hadn't made any threats of rape or violence. Still, though, how would you be doing about now? I would be freaking the fuck out. Later, in a 2025 docuseries about all this, Chloe Ayling, My Unbelievable Kidnapping, Chloe explained she was still feeling the effects of being drugged, was more curious than scared as to what was going to happen next. She still hoped that this was, not about sex trafficking, not about her being a woman. She genuinely thought, or at least wanted to think, they'd probably gotten the wrong person. This was a case of mistaken identity. I probably would be thinking that I was as good as dead. And that before I was dead, some really bad shit was going to happen to me. Meanwhile, this evening, July 11th, when Chloe fails to return on her flight to Gatwick Airport, just south of Greater London, her mom, Beata, phones Phil Green, tells him that her daughter has not come home like she was supposed to. Phil, at this point, isn't too worried. He presumed that Chloe's phone had likely just died. She'd probably been on it a lot. That's why her mom wasn't able to get a hold of her. Probably calling people all day, taking lots of photos. Maybe things went so well, she decided to stay a little longer than originally she had planned. Not terribly uncommon in this industry. But Beata, not convinced, she knows her daughter very well, including knowing she is still far too trusting of people. She pushes Phil to take this more seriously. He relents. He checks up with the airline, sees that, Chloe had not, in fact, boarded her arranged flight. He also knows that she has a photo shoot scheduled in the gorgeous Spanish island, on the gorgeous Spanish island of Ibiza, July 13th, just 2 days away. Phil wonders if, maybe she flew straight to Spain. He tries again to call her, but it goes again straight to voicemail. The next day now, Wednesday, July 12th, 2017, there is still no sign or word from Chloe, and Phil and Beata, they call the police. Meanwhile, back in Italy, Chloe is trying to stay calm. The night before, back on the 11th, one of her kidnappers had come into a room without his mask now, and the bearded man had asked her in the dim light if she remembered him from Paris. He was the guy. He had gone then by Andre, who had set up that previous photo shoot. The man she did not get a great look at when he had handed over 90 pounds in cash to her to cover her expenses at the airport. When she asked him directly if he was Andre the photographer, he smiled cryptically and said, "I'm definitely not a photographer." Now she's getting pretty scared. This is not an accident. This is not mistaken identity. He had targeted her. He had been intending to kidnap her for months. Then he said, "Those stupid Romanians, they weren't made to take you." Now she's confused. "They can't understand English," he continued. "Stupid Romanians. They couldn't understand the difference between must and mustn't." She asked him if she could just go home. He tells her, "Not so simple. She for sale." Holy fuck. He also tells her that she can call him MD now. MD explained to her that most girls who end up, in her position are screaming, hysterical. He's surprised she's not more obviously freaked out. But that's just not in Chloe's nature, not in her nature to panic. She knows if she becomes emotional, she freaks out, she won't be able to think clearly. So she is able to remain calm. She starts asking MD more questions, right? How is she for sale? He tells Chloe, "I work for an organization called Black Death." Right, this violent organization of Romanian human traffickers that run a business on the dark web. He says these Romanians had sent him a photo of her, made it clear that they wanted her, thought she would be very valuable and good to sell. He told Chloe she had been kidnapped to be sold into a sex trafficking ring, that she was scheduled to be auctioned away on Sunday, 4 days away. He explained that there were only two possible outcomes for her now. She would either be sold to the highest bidder, who would then use her as he pleased, probably very roughly, and her lifespan would be very short, or somebody she knew would pay the opening bid's price to release her. And that opening bid was $300,000 US. Holy shit. Can you imagine how you would feel now in this situation? You don't know who these people are. You don't know where you are. You've been drugged. You've had your clothes taken off you while you were unconscious. You've been tied up, driven in the back of a fucking car, put in a bag for hours, taken somewhere. You don't even know where, somewhere in a country that's not your home. Now you're being told that unless you come up with $300,000 in 4 days, US dollars, you are going to be somebody's sex slave, somebody who will rape and then very likely kill you. It's like you're the star of a very upsetting movie. You're in Taken, except there is no Liam Neeson. You don't know anybody with a special set of skills to come and free you. Chloe told him that she couldn't pay, that she didn't have anywhere near that much money. Neither did her mother or her agent, Phil Green. I mean, Phil probably did have that kind of money, but she's, aware that he's probably not going to hand it over to this guy. MD told her to come up with 3 names, 3 people in her life who might be able to pay to release her. So she comes up with 3. He gives her like 50 minutes to do this. She comes up with Rory McCarthy, a close friend, who, she thought would help if he could. Dave Reed, a celebrity agent who did PR for 66 Magazine, a publication she'd modeled for. Paul Chaplin, the owner of Loaded Magazine, a men's magazine she'd also worked for. She wrote their names down, said that, and then he said, that he would email her agent Phil these names and see if he could get the money together before Sunday, or she gets auctioned. Later that evening, he lets her brush her teeth, go to the toilet again, gives her some food, and then locks her back in the room, leaves her alone, terrified and exhausted. And finally, in this state, she falls asleep. The next day, Wednesday the 12th again, Phil opened his inbox to find the following email. Hi, Phil Green. I go by the name MD. I'm a mid-high level contract killer working for Black Death Group. Chloe has been taken and is currently under my wings. And as long as I live, nothing will happen to her. I give my word. Email goes on to say that Chloe would be auctioned off as a sex slave on the dark web unless Phil can raise the funds from the 3 men that Chloe had named, 2 of whom Phil recognized as clients and the other Rory, an investment banker. The sender used an encrypted account and went on to tell Phil that contacting him put his life at risk. Still, he said he had no choice but to follow the rules. He could not release Chloe. The penalty for that, he wrote, would be death for myself and Chloe. No merchandise. Leave Black Death unpaid. Phil responded to this email with just a single word. Received. Later that day, MD brought Chloe some rice cakes after she woke up. Also early that day. Probably wasn't that late. He set them down beside her, then sat on the bed in the room, then started to tell Chloe more about who he was, what he did. All sorts of shit, all sorts of tall tales. He starts telling her that he killed people. Poison was his cleanest preferred method. No one ever questions a heart attack, he said. He loved to talk about himself. A lot of grandiose, I'm a very important and ruthless and feared man stories. But also told these stories in a way that seemed more like he was trying to impress her than scare her. Make her think that he was, the baddest motherfucker of all time, but also could be a sweet bad guy who had a soft spot for her. So weird. He acted like he felt sorry for her in a lot of moments. Acted surprised that Phil had only sent back that 1-word email, which crushed Chloe, by the way. Did he just not give a shit about her? At one point, he said he hoped that a deal could be reached, that maybe Black Death would take less than $300,000, whatever her family could afford. He said he talked to his Black Death boss, CK, about it. Also said that he himself had plenty of money. He could easily pay $300,000. But the Black Death, they wouldn't allow that. It's against the rules for him to pay it. It just wouldn't be fair to the other trafficking victims. So strange. This whole fucking kidnapping section is going to be strange, by the way. He will tell her so much crazy, often contradictory, sometimes nonsensical shit. Always making himself look like a very big deal. So much over the top, bragging. This is definitely the weirdest kidnapping I've ever read about. And making it all stranger is that whatever he says, Chloe believes him. Again, she is not good at reading people. She accepts a lot of what people say, no matter how absurd at face value. Whenever Chloe asked him something, she said he would go into long, detailed explanations. He told her how common these kidnappings were, how the group operated, how they've been getting away with it for years. According to him, they've been taking 3-4 girls a week, mostly from Eastern Europe, but, sometimes from the UK for years. He made it seem like Black Death was a truly massive, nearly all-powerful organization with agents all across Europe. He made her feel that it would be pointless to ever go up against them. Even if she did escape, they'd find her. They'd find her mom. They'd find her son, Ashton. They might kill them all. Her price, it had to be paid, or there was going to be terrible consequences. At one point, he shows her a Black Death pamphlet, some sort of official document that made the group appear to be, more legit, a true international sex trafficking network. This scares her. Also, though, what kind of clandestine international terror and trafficking group has a fucking pamphlet? Why would they need that? What are they doing with this pamphlet? Are they sticking it under the windshield wipers of parked cars and, grocery store parking lots? Attention! Black Death is in town. We're probably going to take some of your sexy young women. That is how we do. And we just want to let you know there's not a damn thing you can do about it, because we're Black Death, baby. Most powerful, ruthless, mostly Romanian group of psycho killer kidnappers in the world. Go ahead, call police, I dare you. Some of those cops probably already work for us. They'll arrest you, hand you over, hand your daughter over, maybe mom, to Black Death. Got any questions? If you do, email us at imscared@blackdeath.biz. Or come to our Q&A in basement of Elk Lodge, Thursday, 8 p.m., maybe. We're Black Death, baby. We don't have to do anything we don't want to do. And one more thing. Want to be a Black Death agent? Email us at imverydangerousandtough@blackdeath.biz. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Anyway, he showed her this weird fucking Black Death pamphlet, and it scared her. Also, as he spoke, all Chloe could think about was her mom and her son, what they must be going through. Guilt begins to creep in. She blames herself for wanting this life, for chasing it despite knowing there are risks. She feels stupid for not being more aware that there were seedy people like this in the world. Why had she needed more? Why couldn't she just been content with what she had? Why did she have to be so ambitious in this way? By this point, the UK Metropolitan Police are made aware of concerns over the welfare of a woman overseas. Her agent Phil and her mom, again, had contacted the authorities after Phil got the email. On the UK side, the case was assigned to a detective superintendent with 30 years behind him working in counterterrorism, organized crime, intelligence, and cybercrime. He did not get permission to have his name or face used or shown on camera in interviews about him. So let's just call him Detective Richard Bacon. Dick Bacon. The call to Dick Bacon came in from the National Crime Agency. A 20-year-old woman from Croydon had been kidnapped in Milan. The first thing Detective Dick Bacon did was build a profile of Chloe Ayling, who she was, what she did, what kind of life she lived. He pulled up her social media, looked at her career, and what he found introduced a complication for him. According to Dick Bacon, Chloe was a young woman who really craved the spotlight. She'd been in Paris during the terror attacks, and afterwards she'd appeared in the media about it. Maybe she'd gotten a taste for that kind of attention and wanted to replicate it. Dick Bacon was under the impression that she had used the moment of a terrorist attack for her own personal gain, and now he wonders, is this a genuine abduction? Or is this a young, ambitious model, engineering a story to get herself back into the news after realizing how being associated with a shocking crime was a quick and free way to gain a lot of exposure? Exposure she could monetize. The morning of Thursday, July 13th, Dick Bacon walked into the office at 8 a.m., half expecting to hear that the Milan kidnap case had resolved itself overnight. It hadn't. In fact, what was waiting for him instead was a second email. And this one came with attachments. 3 JPEG images of Chloe lying in a velour jumpsuit. Makeup smeared on her face, left breast hanging out of her jumpsuit a little bit, eyes open but seemingly unconscious. I've seen the pictures. They're fucking creepy. Dick Bacon's first thought, looking at the photos, is that she's already dead. Underneath the images is a kind of listing. It read, Chloe, born in UK, abducted in Italy, held in Germany, 18 years old, Caucasian. She's not 18, but whatever. 32 double D, 25-inch waist, 35-inch hips, beginner model, starting bid $300,000. Auction takes place Sunday, July 16, 2017. So Germany added to the mix, apparently to throw investigators off of her real location. Chloe had also been told by MD that she was no longer in Italy, by the way. And now mostly based on the photos, Detective Dick Bacon, where this might actually be a real kidnapping, that she might actually be auctioned, and that her life is actually in danger. He couldn't afford to simply brush it off as an attention grab. The situation she might be in was potentially deadly. If he got it wrong, if he underestimated it, the cost would not just be professional, it could be her life. So soon, a coordinated operation is underway. Officers from the East Midlands Special Operations Unit arrive at Phil Green's home, take over all communication with the kidnapper or kidnappers. Specially trained negotiators will remain in and around Phil Green's house, working around the clock for days now. Meanwhile, in Milan, the case is picked up by 2 Italian officers Gianluca Simantacci, and Serena Ferrari. Fuck yeah, bro. Serena Ferrari, that's the kind of Italian name I was hoping for. Maserati, Bugatti, Spaghetti, Antonio Banderas, Serena Ferrari. The officers are briefed about the situation, what the UK side is working with, a young British model, an alleged dark web Romanian auction, and a deadline just a few days away. To the Italian investigators, the idea of a dark web auction like this is completely unfamiliar territory. They had nothing to compare it to. They went to the address where the photo shoot was supposed to take place, found no functioning studio, just a storefront, an empty warehouse-like space. Inside, they found Chloe's belongings scattered across the room, her phone, her wallet, her suitcase, even a pair of white Adidas sneakers with shimmer stripes. I'm sure Serena Ferrari is a freaking out. She doesn't know what to do next. Meanwhile, Chloe, still chained inside the cottage, isolated with no clear sense of what's going to happen to her. And the story MD is telling her keeps changing. At first, as I've mentioned, MD told her he was part of a group called Black Death, right? These ruthless Romanian traffickers. He led her to believe he had worked for them for quite some time, that he was also a ruthless, cold-blooded killer. This is all just business for him. But then he starts to relax a little. He begins letting her go to the bathroom without being handcuffed. She said she didn't consider trying to escape because she didn't know if others might be nearby, also worried that he would kill her for trying. He made a point to tell her he's armed with a concealed handgun. Then he offers to let her lay on the bed with him. She said she didn't worry about him trying anything sexually. He hadn't indicated he would do anything like that. He continued to act like she was just a product. He wouldn't want to damage it and face repercussions from the Romanians. There would be penalties for him if he were to, quote, devalue her. Sometimes he acts like he's a subcontractor for Black Death, not part of Black Death. So she begins to lay on one side of the bed. He lays on the other. And now she's not tied up to anything. This guy is so fucking weird. This whole situation is so fucking weird. MD kept talking. Talked. She asked him how he would lure in girls who weren't models, because he said he's getting girls all the time. He said he'd go to nightclubs, get them drunk, maybe drug them, walk them outside, load them into a van. He'd hold them for a week, put them up for auction, then transport them, typically to the Middle East. He told them he'd taken girls as young as 14. Young virgins were the most valuable, and they got the most money at auction. Then he started talking about how he usually didn't stay with captives, though. Not anymore. Nah, bro. No, that was a long time ago in the past. He was now way too high up in the Black Death hierarchy for that shit. He's higher than a lot of the Romanians, actually. Big fucking deal in the organization when you come to think about it. Also, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and again at night, he'll check his email to see if anybody had paid for him. And then soon he starts to talk about how he wants out of the Black Death. He's all over the place. He starts saying that his fate and Chloe's are actually bound together. He speaks to her about how he'd really like to help her, actually, to pay for her himself. He wishes he could. But to free her and to also buy his own way out of the group, he'd have to raise about, 300,000 euros. So I guess it's weird that it's the same fucking price, essentially, for him to get himself out and her out. And to do that, to get the 300,000 euros, he would have to sell a bunch of properties he claims to own. And he doesn't know if there's going to be time to do that before Sunday. And, if they can't pull it off, well, then they're both dead. And yeah, earlier he did say he had plenty of cash, just cash, and could pay for her, obviously, but that was against the rules. He's seen a lot of confusing, contradictory, nonsensical shit. MD, would most certainly be killed if he wasn't careful, he told her. And Chloe, if a buyer did end up taking her after MD had tried to buy her but was not successful, well, then she'd obviously be fed to tigers. Once the owners grew bored of her, of course. What? Then the story changed yet again, constantly changing. MD told Chloe that the higher-ups in Black Death were actually angry that she had been taken at all. She should have been taken because she was the mother of a young child, and that made her a liability, harder to sell, bad for business, for 1-800-BUSINESS, ethically off-limits, even by their nefarious standards. He explained that they hadn't known she was a mom initially, but then they looked further down in her social media feed, and then they saw, oh shit, okay, pictures of her and baby boy, oh fuck. Black Death were cutting corners, I guess, when it came to the Instagram intel gathering. Then he reassured her that he would find a way to free her. And at one point he suggested a deal. He'd pay part of the money himself. Chloe would cover the rest, as soon as she got released. Kind of definitely sounds like he was just making all this shit up as he went along, doesn't it? Soon MD claimed he had not kidnapped her at all. No. 2 low-ranking Black Death foot soldiers snatched her from Milan. He was a senior Black Death figure, clearly. He rushed in the moment he heard that she'd been taken because he knew she was a young mother. The original kidnappers, then recognizing his rank, well, they just fucking handed her over and left. They didn't want to get killed. Is he mentally ill or just not a good liar? MD then reiterated that Black Death agents were everywhere. They were watching the farmhouse right at that moment. Escape not an option. She had to trust him because he's risking her life for her now. In Chloe's own words, he always made out that he was the one who saved me. I looked at him like, what could I do without him? He said that if I escaped, not only would I die, he would as well. He was the only person who seemed to care that I could be free, or that I would be free. It's like he read a book about Stockholm Syndrome and wanted to see how quickly he could scare and confuse somebody in developing Stockholm Syndrome for him. It's like he'd seen a photo of her online, become obsessed with her, and then thought, I wonder if I can kidnap her, convince her that her life is in grave danger, then convince her that I can save her from that danger, and then she will fall in love with me, and also will get money for people paying to save her, and we will live happily ever after. Second night in bed together, Chloe said he again did not try and touch her. She slept on her side, he slept on his, and she quietly cried herself to sleep. The next day, on Friday, July 14th now, Chloe was allowed to take a shower. She changed into an old t-shirt and a pair of boxer shorts, said MD did not watch her shower, but did make her keep the bathroom door open. When she was done, she was informed she still had to remain upstairs, could only move about the bedroom and the bathroom. Also, by the way, she hasn't seen the second kidnapper in quite a while now. It's just MD. By this point, back in England, Phil Green has finally heard back from 3 people Chloe had named to pay for her release. Only one of them was in a position to even consider paying. The only 2 couldn't or would not pay. The third person was Rory McCarthy, the investment banker. Some tabloids would later describe him as Chloe's ex-boyfriend. She has said that is not true. They've always just been friends. According to Chloe, they had known each other since 2015, 2 years before the kidnapping. Weren't even speaking at the time she was taken. They'd had some kind of argument. So when he offered money, she was surprised and touched. But Rory said he could only pay £20,000. MD had, of course, made it clear in moments that he needed to pay $300,000 US. When she found out that nobody could pay the money, Chloe accepted she was going to have to rely on herself and only herself to get out of this strange mess. And she was starting to lose hope. She desperately wanted to believe that MD could save her, but his story was so confusing. You know, he was only a small part of a much bigger and more dangerous operation. There were other, more ruthless people far above him in Black Death with more power and reach. Why would anyone up the chain agree to just let her go? Around this time, MD now told her how he'd come to be involved with the Black Death. He said he'd been a soldier in the army. He liked it, was very good at it, and someone introduced him, another soldier, to the organization. When he spoke with them, he was told that thanks to his military experience, he would not have to start at the bottom. No, he told Chloe that most new recruits start at level 1, which makes sense. The highest rank, by the way, is level 20. Does this sound real to anybody listening? It sounds to me like an incel fantasy fever dream. MD said he was able to start out on level 8, and that after 5 years of working for Black Death, or being part of Black Death, he kept going back and forth, he was now at level 12. And what do level 12 Black Death soldiers do, you may wonder? Mostly assassinations. Totally. Cool story, bro. And this motherfucker, oh man, he had been assassinating people left and right. God, if only he had a nickel for every fool he assassinated. He spoke about killing people with no more emotion than someone who worked at a grocery store, talking about stock and shelves. He literally told her that he had killed, get ready for this, thousands of people, assassinated thousands of people.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
He's a one-man army, a killing machine. He's a Terminator. Around this time, Chloe realized that MD was romantically interested in her. When he started talking yet again about how he wanted to help her, he alluded to his own mother having once been kidnapped and trafficked, and that he had never seen her again. And by golly, he sure wished that someone, some kind of, hero, could have helped save her. And that is why he wanted to help Chloe. What? I need a hero! So MD is a cold-blooded Black Death motherfucker who has killed thousands of people and has helped traffic hundreds, if not thousands of girls as young as 14 for around 5 years. But also did all of that, knowing that the same kind of shit had happened to his mom, but now understands how wrong this all was and wants to be Chloe's hero and save her. Got it? After he shared all that nonsense, MD leaned in and tried to kiss Chloe. She's surprised. She pulls away slightly. Then she tells him this isn't the right place for this. She's not in the right headspace for romance. Not now. But maybe, probably, almost certainly. If he were to release her, if he were to be the hero and save her, well, then they would be in a relationship. She's falling for him too. And now MD, which probably stands for, I don't know, Melvin Dipshit, he lights the fuck up. So you're telling me there's a chance. This was the moment Chloe later said everything changed. Now she knew what game she had to play. After the foiled kiss, Chloe later said she started talking to Melvin about their future, about what the two of them, what they could be together when she was out. Her only strategy is to make him believe in this version of the future that he wants, that is truly possible, if and only she is released. Over the days that follow, he will ask many, many times, when they might become a couple. And she'll just keep saying, in the future, when I'm released. Now the tone of the abduction shifts towards Chloe and MD working together, and they hatch a new plan. Push back on the Black Death level 20 bosses. Negotiate an alternative. Pay shortly after release rather than upfront, no auction. Okay, it took them a while to come. Okay, all right. After much brainstorming, and what I can only imagine was one of the dumbest conversations of all time, MD agrees to take their case to the people above him. The next 24 hours will be the most stressful yet. Chloe keeps telling Melvin that whatever Black Death requires for her release, she will do it. She will pay. And Melvin, he believes her because he is for sure a fucking dipshit. He acts more and more convinced that if the Black Death let her go, she will truly follow through on every condition. He thinks she cares about him. He tells her that when he presented her case for release to Black Death, he backed her. He argued for her freedom. But he told her when he checked his email on Saturday night, July 15th, he still hadn't heard back. Another night in captivity. Another night laying side by side in bed with his freak. And thankfully, another night when he does not touch her. Soon the clock struck midnight. Flipped the calendar over to the payment deadline of Sunday. With no money coming through, UK investigators led by Detective Dick Bacon feared Chloe was about to be put up for auction. No one had a clue yet where Chloe was or if she was still alive. Then around 3 a.m, an email landed in the investigator's inbox. Just 3 words sent from, presumably, Melvin Dipshit. She's gone, mate. And that's it. Chloe is being auctioned. The investigators didn't know where she was headed, how long she would be held, what she was about to endure, but they're very worried it's going to be very bad. For Dick Bacon, this is one of the lowest moments of his career. He had been handed one responsibility to bring Chloe home. And as far as he knew now, he had failed and she had died. But in reality, Chloe was still inside the Italian farmhouse where she'd been the whole time. And around 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, she took a little trip into some local town near where she was held in captivity. MD walked her into a clothing store that she later described as a mountain hiking type of place. She said Melvin walked her out the front door of the farmhouse after she put on some sort of tracksuit. She hopped into the passenger seat of his car, a cobalt blue sedan, and MD began to drive. No more riding in the trunk, no more handcuffs, nothing. But he did remind her he's armed, and he would shoot if he had to. After 15 or so minutes, they made it close to the little shop she spoke of. Then they parked. They walk a ways together before entering the shop. On the way as they're walking, she said Melvin reached out to hold her hand. Of course, she took it. She is not in a position to reject him. She still needed him to think they're going to be together soon. Then they walk inside, smiling, holding hands. She's laughing at his jokes. He buys her some shoes. Then they walk back to the car to get some fruit from a little stand along the way. Still smiling, laughing. Then they get back in the car, drive back to the farmhouse. There, they eat the fruit, hang out upstairs, wait for word from Black Death. At 6 p.m., Melvin said that the answer finally came back, or he pretended it had. Black Death had, against all odds, agreed to let her go. But only if she accepted 4 conditions. The first was that she not speak to the police about any of this fucking ever. Feels reasonable. The second, any police investigation that had already begun needed to cease. Looking at you, Dick Bacon. Third, she would publicly promote Black Death as a leading terror organization. What? In his words, you're from the UK and we don't have an audience there. So I need you to promote Black Death. That might be the most absurd thing he's done yet. How is she supposed to promote Black Death? Through Instagram posts? Hi, I'm sexy model Chloe Ayling. I do sexy shoots all over the world because I'm sexy. I nearly got kidnapped and auctioned off into sexual slavery by the world's leading terror organization, Black Death. They're very scary. If you are also a sexy model, but would like to be kidnapped and auctioned off into sexual slavery, head to Milan and book a photo shoot with Bellissima Magnifique Studios. Tell them I sent you. They will kidnap the shit out of you. They can also be hired for assassinations. Anybody you want dead but don't want to kill, they will do it. They'll kill anyone. Find them and follow across all socials. Be sure and click the subscribe button. Like, what the fuck? Fourth condition is, within a month of her release, she has to pay $50,000 in Bitcoin. Oh, sweet Christ. Now it's $50,000 instead of $300,000. Chloe agrees to the first three straight away. Only the last one makes her hesitate. She doesn't know she has that kind of money, but then she's like, okay, I'll get it. And she, of course, says yes to that. She has to. She has to say whatever she needs to say to get released. They go to bed that night around 10 p.m. Side by side, again, no funny business. MD tells Chloe it's going to be a long drive the next day. He wants to head out at 4 a.m. Monday morning, July 17th at 4 a.m., the two leave the house again. They drive and drive through the Italian countryside, down a bunch of winding roads. Then after a while, MD turns to her and asks, did you ever think I was lying to you? That I was just doing all this to trick you? She doesn't know what he's talking about. So MD tells her a story about a supposed former Black Death, level 20 final boss of his. Oh, shit. Who had done something like this once before. He promised a girl that she was going to be released. Then he drove her not to safety, not to a consulate, but to a small airstrip, somewhere she could be loaded onto a plane, flown to a nasty buyer in the Middle East. Chloe sits very still. She does not want him to see the fear she now feels. She tells him that no, she trusts him. And then she lets her eyes half close as if she's tired, and she rests her head against the window, unbothered on the outside, terrified on the inside. Car keeps moving. She watches the street signs. They're heading back toward Milan. When they reach the city, MD navigates through the tight corners, weaving past scooters, trams, aggressive drivers on the way to work. The plan is for him to drop her about 20 minutes from the British consulate, far enough away to stay clear of cameras, but Chloe does not like that idea at all. She doesn't want to be left alone. She actually wants him right beside her. Quote, I relied on this man totally, she said later. When he wanted to drop me off 20 minutes from the consulate, I couldn't bear to think about being separated from him because I thought other members of Black Death would get me in the time it took to walk there. It is so fucking sad. She's scared by this. When they reach the consulate, it's still closed. Not going to open for another 2 hours. They can't just wait around outside, right? They need a different plan. So Chloe and MD, they go to a cafe near the consulate and they have breakfast together. Witnesses will later tell reporters the two of them were laughing and joking. As Chloe put it, I can see why people think it's weird. In my eyes, he is the guy who saved me. After their breakfast, MD decides on a riskier move. He'll walk her straight inside the consulate now. He coaches her on what to say, that he was just her only friend in Italy. And then after escaping her kidnapper, she borrowed a stranger's phone and called him for help, and he answered. She was to say that his name is Daniel Zawada. Melvin Dipshit figured that he would just hand her over and just walk out a free man because he is truly fucking stupid. Once the consulate opens, MD drives up to the gate in his car with Chloe Ayling in the passenger seat beside him. CCTV shows the two arrive together. Chloe smiling in the front seat, looking relaxed. MD leaning out to press the button for a parking ticket. The automated gate lifts. They drive onto into the underground car park. MD and Chloe get out of the car. They walk together through the underground car park into the consulate. Chloe wearing an oversized jersey, her hair piled on top of her head in a messy bun. They walk up to the front desk together. Chloe introduces herself, telling staff she has been kidnapped with MD standing at her side, posing as this friend, Daniel Zawada. The staff already knows who she is. News of her disappearance has been a huge story, right, for days locally. They take Chloe to an empty room to talk privately. MD moves to follow her in, but the embassy staff tell him, no, you're not allowed in there. Chloe then begins to rattle off the agreed-upon cover story, that she had been kidnapped, that she escaped, she borrowed a stranger's phone, called the only friend she had in Italy, Daniel, and that he had picked her up and driven her to the consulate. The consulate alerted the police, and they arrived quickly. The first question they ask is a simple one. So what's Daniel's phone number? Chloe doesn't know it. Whoopsie! Overlooked a pretty important detail there. This, of course, made no fucking sense. If Daniel was her only friend in Italy, if she had memorized his number well enough to recite it to a stranger and asked to borrow a phone, right, just that same fucking morning, she should have 100% for sure been able to recite it to the police now, but she couldn't fucking pull any of the numbers out of her ass. Chloe then turns to Nicoletta, the translator, and says, I need to get this off my chest, but I am scared. And now she tells her the truth. But not the whole truth. Doesn't tell them about shopping with MD. And that admission is about to catch up with her. Police asked Chloe where she had gotten the new clothes she's wearing. She replied at the farmhouse. And while that was true of the tracksuit, it was not true of the sneakers. Chloe Ayling also did not tell Milan police. She'd been held in one location. Serena Ferrari, she's armata. And doesn't mention ever having left the house. She did tell them about the syringe the two men, the faux romance, the auction, and more. Her story is so unusual, so far outside anything Italian investigators had ever seen, they struggled to believe it as it unfolded. Of course they did. It's a fucking insane story. She has been fed dozens of hours of maniacal borderline gibberish for days. The officers kept asking Nicoletta, the interpreter, to repeat and double check what Chloe had said. More than once they asked, "Are you sure that's what she said?" Right? Sarina Ferrari. She's freaking out. "Are you sure that's what she's talking about? It makes no sense." They just can't believe what they're hearing. Yeah, I bet. Each time Nicoletta confirmed, though, that was what she said. This goes on for hours and hours and hours, roughly 10 to 12. And then after all this, the police bring out some CCTV footage. They tell Chloe they had footage of herself and Daniel, this Daniel MD character out and about, shoe shopping, holding hands. They showed her the footage, made her watch it. Also presented Chloe with a statement from a saleswoman who said that she had sold shoes to the model the day before. Chloe, watching the footage played back to her, she breaks down sobbing. It was, she would later say, devastating. She just spent about 12 hours giving the police every detail she could think of, but she hadn't told them that, and now they're going to use it to say she's not telling the truth. A lot of people will analyze all this and quickly point to the shoe shopping footage combined with not telling Italian authorities about the shopping excursion immediately as proof, definitive proof she made all this shit up. That she was, part of this supposed abduction. When asked later why she didn't tell police about the shoes, Chloe explained, "It was the end of the interview. I've been speaking for 12 hours. I just wanted to leave. I thought that would be another whole load of questions, and it would drag on for so much longer, so I just didn't mention it." Her Italian lawyer, Francesco Pescia, would much later defend the strangeness of the shopping footage in his own words, saying, "She did it to testify that she went out to a copter to buy the shoes and buy the groceries. She does appear to be strange. I understand this. I will continue to respond to this. She was a torturous man. There were many people in this Black Death organization around her. Even if she tried to flee, she's going to die." I know I'm being ridiculous. For the Italian police, this admission opened up a question that will haunt Chloe Ayling for years. Still haunts her, in fact. Did she stage her own kidnapping, right? A question will not be answered in the British consulate in Italy that day, won't be answered for many months. In the end, it'll be answered in court. The one thing Italian police are sure of the evening of Monday, July 17th, is that the man who had walked in with Chloe is an obvious suspect. Either he is her kidnapper or part of a plot Chloe may or may not have been a part of. Next morning, Tuesday, July 18, 2017, after being held for over 24 hours, questioned for much of that time, Melvin Dipshit, officially arrested, charged with kidnapping for extortion. When officers searched him, they found what looked like some sort of Polish ID in the name of Daniel Zawada, but Italian police later discover that no legitimate document existed under that name. Melvin also carrying a business card. The card read, "Permanent Solution." One side has a logo of the Grim Reaper. Other side has a complicated dark web-style email address printed across it. Oh, 1-800-business vibes. And now while Chloe is again being questioned in one room, Melvin is in another, telling his version of events. At first, he sticks to the story he and Chloe had supposedly cooked up, but it doesn't take long before his story starts to fall apart because it's garbage and he's a fucking idiot. Eventually, Melvin admits he was involved in a plot to kidnap Chloe. Meanwhile, investigators run all of his suspected aliases through their systems. When they trace Andre Lazio, the name used to book Chloe's photo shoot in both Paris and Milan, and to rent the fake studio with, the abandoned shopfront she was sent to, they don't find a clean identity. Instead, they uncovered a trail of layered fake IDs and aliases, all pointing back to one real person. Łukasz Herba, Melvin Dipshit's real name. Łukasz Herba is a Polish-born man who had actually been living in the UK for years, working as a computer programmer sometimes. He lived in Oldbury, was connected to nearby Tividale, two industrial towns at the heart of the Black Country, a region in the West Midlands of England, roughly 150 miles northwest of where Chloe was living. He shared a flat with his older brother, Michael, and on Facebook, he claimed to be the chairman of a tech company called Carmerg. There's no such company. Story keeps getting weirder. Łukasz opens up more and more about his supposed part in the plot in the investigation room, and insisting his role is limited. He tells them that he was only involved in renting properties around Europe, such as the shopfront in Milan and the farmhouse in Viu, to store garments that some group of Romanians who had hired him were supposedly selling. What? Black Death? In addition to extremely lucrative sexual trafficking, and I would think lucrative assassinations as well, since Łukasz has personally killed thousands, they're also in the garment business? Even though a bunch of garments were never found at either location? The fuck is wrong with Łukasz Herba? This idiot now tells police the kidnapping was orchestrated by a group of Romanians who paid him £500,000. Man, a lot of money in the garment business. Only reason he agreed to take part, he says, is because he has leukemia. He needs the money to pay for medical treatment. That's such a preposterous lie. Why would you fucking tell that lie if you have any brain in your head? As if they can't, I don't know, Melvin, quickly check your fucking medical records. Easily prove you don't have never had leukemia. Well, when the police press him on leukemia, Lucas can't give them the name of a single doctor. Cannot provide any evidence whatsoever that he is sick, because he's not sick. Also, not once in this entire interview does Lucas Herba ever mention the words Black Death. Lucas then confirms to police that he met Chloe months earlier in Paris. He said he canceled the Paris job when he realized that there were 3 Romanians, these garment fucking motherfucker, who intended to kidnap Chloe back then. According to Lucas, he called Chloe's hotel pretending to be the photographer, claiming his equipment had been stolen in order to cancel the shoot and get her back home to safety. He's a hero. He's a hero. And then once Chloe was abducted in Milan, Lucas told police he came to her aid when he saw her photos posted with an online auction. What? How would he know where the Romanians were keeping her if he had just fucked over the Romanians previously in Paris? He also said that she was free to go once the Romanians had abandoned the farmhouse, but she just stayed because I guess she loved him. Meanwhile, when she heard about Herba being arrested, Chloe actually got confused. At this point, she still believes that he has rescued her from Black Death. She will later tell The Guardian, "I was grateful to him. I felt sympathetic to the fact he was in jail and the Romanians were still out there." While Chloe was feeling sympathy for Herba, Italian investigators were still looking into the possibility that Chloe and Herba were collaborating. Maybe they did it together. We don't know yet. At this point, they started to ponder whether the case was bigger than just the 2 of them. In fact, the police were actively looking for as many as 4 accomplices. Around the same time, Chloe's pathology tests come back. Her urine shows no trace of drugs in the past couple of days, which suggests she had not ingested anything very recently or been, stuck with a needle. But then her hair tests positive for ketamine, the drug I was supposed to take a few months ago. I mean, the powerful horse tranquilizer, that fast-acting, disassociative anesthetic sometimes referred to as a psychedelic that alters perception, pain, and consciousness. The drug that, while historically used as a surgical sedative for humans and animals, has also emerged as a widely prescribed, highly effective treatment for severe mental health conditions, and a drug that is also used recreationally around the world, a drug that maybe I got my hands on some more of that's actually clean and we'll be trying soon. What? Forget I said that. The drug that, if you are given a high enough dose, it can K-hole you into fucking oblivion and leave you technically unconscious in a state of dissociative anesthesia, maybe looking like somebody lying half, looking dead with their eyes open in that photo that was sent to the police earlier. So circling back, Chloe had clearly taken the drug at some earlier point, maybe by choice, not necessarily by choice. But then they found a puncture mark on her wrist consistent with the needle and bruises on her wrists and ankles consistent with being handcuffed for an extended period of time. Meanwhile, Italian police sifting through thousands of hours of CCTV footage, and they find footage of Lucas walking the streets with another man who looks a lot like him. Also find a set of fingerprints that likely belong to a close relative, pointing towards his brother Michael. Working with Italian authorities, British police search a house in Oldbury. Thank you, Dick Bacon, for your assistance. A house linked to the brothers, and they seize computer equipment for forensic analysis. At this point, they are still not sure just how big this operation is and how many accomplices might be out there. After several days of police interviews, the Italian prosecutor and officers decide Chloe needs to stay in Italy while they continue their investigation. There is no clear timeline for when it will be over. She's simply told she has to remain in the country until further notice. They can't decide if she is the victim of a crime or the suspect, or a suspect in committing a crime. She's placed in a safe house where other victims of crimes like kidnapping are housed when their safety needs to be guaranteed, where they can access mental health support. Chloe arrives at the safe house, finds 2 females sleeping on 2 single beds, more like cots almost. There's a 3rd single bed in the middle. That's hers. The room's very stuffy, no air conditioning, very hot. It smells. After all that she's just been through, she doesn't want to stay there. Can't blame her at all. When she talks to the Italian police, they tell her that if she wants a hotel instead, she'll have to pay for it herself. But she doesn't have any money because she doesn't have her credit cards, ATM cards, etc. that she lost in the abduction. So now Chloe calls her agent Phil. First time they've spoken since the kidnapping, she tells him she has to remain in Milan for further questioning. She's being housed at a women's shelter she does not want to stay in. Phil pays for a couple of nights at a hotel. Neither of them know how long she's going to be there. Next day, she picks a lawyer from a list of English-speaking attorneys. She chooses Francesco Pescia, whom we heard a quote from earlier. Pescia knows what he's in for. He admits to the Associated Press that the case looks and sounds totally bizarre and unbelievable. He acknowledges that investigators have, quote, more than understandable doubts about her story. According to Pesha, it seems incredible. A man kidnaps together with others, a girl, after a week, citing particular reasons, accompanies her inside a consulate and practically hands over to the police. While the Italian and British police, sorry, that's annoying again, but I amused myself. While the Italian and British police continue to ponder over whether or not Chloe's a victim or an accomplice, Chloe has no idea that is what's happening. According to her, she is still living inside the rules of the kidnapping at this point. She still believes she owes the Black Death, everything that they told her, or that, he told her, fucking dipshit, that she owed them. The silence, the 50,000 euros in Bitcoin, the very confusing promotion of their services in England, all of it. Sure, she's technically been released, but she doesn't feel relieved, not even close. She's terrified that when she finally gets back to England, she's only going to have a small amount of time, with her family and friends before they come for her again. Or come for her mom or for her baby boy, Ashton. The fear consumes her. She's not worried or thinking about what the police, what the press, what the public are thinking about all this right now. The idea that people might not believe her hasn't yet crossed her mind. But then Italian police lay out their concerns to her face to face. And for the first time, she understands people aren't buying her story. The Italian police admit they're struggling to make sense of all this. They tell her, look, maybe your story is genuine, but you got no documents, no video, no witnesses. All we have is your word. They also say they find it strange how composed she is, that she's able to speak about it all with no emotion. Just matter of fact, in a clear and steady voice that doesn't waver. Within days of her turning up in that consulate, dozens of officers have been assigned to the case. And the Italian police decide to run a test now. They'll take Chloe back to every location she mentioned in her statement and watch and see how she reacts. This is so very Italian. A remarkably calm Chloe pulls a pair of blue forensic gloves on, takes the investigators on a tour of her kidnapping. First, they drive Chloe to the fake studio where she said she was taken. They watch her closely as she retraces the route, describe the initial attack in detail. They watch her body language, her facial expressions. They look for a sign of trembling hands or fear or tears, right? They're all body language experts now, apparently. The whole time, Chloe remains incredibly calm. And then they drive to the village where she and Lucas had gone shoe shopping, retracing the route step by step, the spot where he parked the car, the walk to the shop, the route back, the place where they bought fruit. Next, they drive to the house where she'd been held captive, and inside, Chloe points out on the floor where she was made to lie, the spot where the sleeping bag had been placed before she ended up sleeping next to Melvin Dipshit, the place where her hands had been handcuffed, and finally she breaks down. The Italian police watching her closely. I don't know, she look pretty sad to me now. She's definitely crying. She must be innocent. For days, right, she's been impossible to read. Calm, matter-of-fact, dry-eyed through a story that should have rattled anyone, or at least they felt it should have rattled anyone. But as many of us know, or at least I hope many of us know, the way humans react to tragedy differs wildly, thanks to all the neurodivergence and broad spectrum of emotional makeup and upbringing, etc. Standing in the room where she had been held, Chloe became visibly shaken, and the Italian police, rightly or wrongly, believed that emotion appeared genuine. At that moment, things changed for the Italian investigation. They now started to trust that what she was recounting could only come from someone who had actually experienced something deeply traumatic. Despite having the Italian police now on her side, Chloe still can't leave Italy, though. And she claims she grew more and more terrified day by day that one of the Black Death's henchmen were going to come hunt her down. She becomes convinced that, some level 20 big boss endgame motherfucker was going to bribe a hotel receptionist to be let into the room, to take her. She doesn't trust that the police can catch all of them. She believed that there would always be more accomplices out there and they would come for her. Just a matter of time. Meanwhile, the Italian police still have Lucas in custody. However, they still don't know if he's acted alone or if there's a whole network out there of men like him that they don't know about. So detectives start to dig into their existing leads on dark web activity. They're trying to figure out where Chloe could have been sold, what platforms, what internet auction spots the Black Death may have used. But this is a near impossible task because the dark web does not work like the regular internet. As I learned when I researched a dark web episode in the early days of Timesuck and got pretty freaked out and deleted Tor or the Onion router from my computer. Sites are not indexed. You don't know what you're going to find until you fucking just get there sometimes. You can't just type a name into a search bar and find a bunch of stuff. Each, place is hidden behind a jumble of random characters. You can only get there if somebody gives you the exact address. That means most of the dark web's legal activity lives on a small number of hidden sites that only insiders know about. Outsiders will never be able to find them unless somebody gives them that exact address. The Italian police, they search through all the known dark websites on their radar, come up empty. There's no listing for Chloe, no Black Death linked platform they can identify. After a few weeks of investigating now, the case breaks. Over the weekend of August 5th, Italian police and prosecutors lay it all out: the kidnapping, the mysterious Black Death group, the online auction, the miraculous escape, described in full detail at a press conference. The British press picks up the story immediately. They also run it alongside the raunchiest photos they can find of Chloe from her social media. Very British tabloidy. It doesn't take long before the public starts to raise serious doubts about all this. Chloe is finally cleared to go back to England, though, and on Sunday, August 6, 2017, about a month after she first flew to Milan for what she thought was going to be a photo shoot, Chloe arrives home in Colston, South London. There's cameras and reporters waiting on her street outside her home. The story of Chloe's abduction by this point has gone global. And again, many people, including many reporters, if not most, they don't believe her. So after all she's gone through, she does not get a sympathetic welcome. She gets ridiculed instead of celebrated. And she just desperately wants to be left alone. Shortly after Chloe arrives home, she connects with her friend Rory, who gives her some advice. The only way to get the reporters and photographers to go the fuck away is to give them something. You got to say something. Give them what they want. Chloe doesn't know what to say. So Rory gets out a pen and paper, writes a note for her. She skims through it, and she goes outside and she reads it. Only an hour after Chloe has arrived home, she steps outside her front door holding a piece of paper. Her dog runs out of the house behind her. She's wearing hot pants, a low-cut top that a lot of people found odd and inappropriate. She's smiling, doesn't appear shook up or upset at all. Her hair's looking great, all done up. Her makeup's on point. She looks like she's ready for a photo shoot. She clears her throat, reads a brief statement to the reporters. I'll play that for you now so you can just hear it in her words.
I've been through a terrifying experience. I feared for my life, second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. I am incredibly grateful to the Italian and the UK authorities for all they have done to secure my safe release. I have just arrived home after 4 weeks of being in Italy. I haven't had the time to gather my thoughts, so I'm not at liberty to say anything further until I have been debriefed by the UK police.
After that, she smiles, poses with her dog for a flashing camera, and then she goes back inside the house. Later, journalists and reporters covering this case will talk ad nauseum about how strange they found her demeanor. Most of them had expected her to look very haggard, a little withdrawn, under the weather, but rather Chloe, had only landed an hour or so earlier, and she stepped straight into the media circus, smiling, posing, seemingly composed, self-assured. And before moving forward, I'd like to refer to the Playboy models I worked with again around the same time. While maybe you would not have dressed like Chloe in that situation, I'm 100% positive that most of them would have. Some of the models regularly had to be told to put their cameras down and stop taking selfies so that our show's photographers could take more photos of them. And then once those photos were, done being taken, they would immediately take more pics of themselves with their phones. And why? It is literally their jobs to be filmed looking sexy. And many of them, I'm sure, would have practically rather died during the kidnapping than to have looked haggard after being released. Truly obsessed with their appearances, not making a judgment call about this, just is what it is. Obsessed with looking as hot as possible, as often as possible, to a degree I don't think most people can relate to. And that quality fucked her now in the court of public opinion. On August 11, 2017, just 5 days after Chloe landed back in the UK, the court of Milan issued a European arrest warrant for Michael Herba, Lukasz's older brother. Italian police now believed he was in the car with her on the initial drive to the farmhouse and played a part in her abduction, that he was the second man she was attacked by when she was injected with the ketamine. Because he again was based in the UK, the warrant is certified by the UK's National Crime Agency the next day. Thank you, Dick Bacon. Meanwhile, Lukasz remained in custody in Italy. And then on August 16th, British police moved in and arrested 36-year-old Michael Herba at an address in Tividale. He denied any involvement in Chloe's kidnapping, and the next day in Westminster Magistrates Court, he announced he was going to fight his extradition to Italy. Speaking of Italy, a court there now heard how the alleged plot to kidnap Chloe was financed. Lukasz had taken out a loan to cover the logistics. Of course, that dipshit did. He had rented the fake studio facade in Milan. He had rented the farmhouse in the mountains, all under aliases. He and his brother Michael had bought a car in Poland, shipped it all the way to Italy. And tellingly, the Italian police found absolutely no communication whatsoever between Lukasz and Chloe after rigorously searching phone, email, and social media records, etc. for weeks and weeks. Nothing at all to suggest she was ever a willing partner in any of this. According to prosecutors, she was abducted primarily as an intended investment. Two very stupid men sunk real money into an operation they were betting they would recoup the moment somebody paid Chloe's ransom. But was that all? Of course not. If this was only about the money, why give up so quickly when no ransom is paid? Why did Lukasz so eagerly conspire with Chloe to help her not have to pay the money, or at least not most of it? Why did he let her go? obviously for the possibility of a romance. So delusional. Meanwhile, Chloe was doing the rounds on the UK media circuit now. She was interviewed by the Daily Mail, then appeared on television, the British talk show This Morning. And as Chloe sat across from interviewers and told her story, she failed to win over the British public sympathy. They were suspicious. If Chloe was telling the truth, why had she been caught on CCTV footage in an Italian village? Why did she seem so chirpy one moment, devastated the next? Why, when her kidnapper took her to buy shoes, didn't she just run? Why, when she was finally free, did she not mention the shopping trip to the police? And most puzzling of all, why did her kidnapper just let her go? She had seen his face. She knew where she had been held. Chloe insisted that she was let go because he found out she was a mother. But the British public did not buy that answer. It all sounded too strange. It didn't make sense. We know that nothing about any of this made sense because of Lucas's bullshit. But reporters either weren't willing to do their due diligence to find that out or could not access that information yet, or just didn't care because it would not give them the polarizing story that they wanted to fuel ratings. There was also concerns over the ketamine. Chloe said, of course, that she had been injected with it, but in some of her interviews, it was pointed out that ketamine was a very popular party drug in the UK at the time. She could have easily taken some as she was in the party scene herself, or strongly was assumed to be, but Chloe denied she did drugs, said she barely even drank. But again, the public doesn't buy that. Most seemingly have now made up their minds that this whole thing was nothing more than a disgusting publicity stunt. And that is exactly what Lucas Herba will now claim in court, that he and Chloe orchestrated the entire thing together. In October, 3 months after the kidnapping, the British public still has not moved on. Neither has Chloe. She agrees to appear on Good Morning Britain, where hosts Piers Morgan and Susanna Reid are waiting to question her. And I will preface this next part by saying, I have long fucking hated Piers Morgan. I truly find him to be a despicable human being. I do not understand why anyone ever likes him, ever. I watched this interview before reading over the preliminary research assembled for this episode, and I got so fucking mad, I literally typed into my Google Chrome search bar, quote, Piers Morgan is a cunt. I just wanted to see if that judgy statement resonated with anybody else out there. Immediately, I was given the following AI overview, not joking. This is what it shot back verbatim. That is an extremely common sentiment. Millions of people find him insufferable, and he has made a massive career out of being intentionally provocative, loud, and argumentative to drive up his engagement and ratings. Clearly, even whatever AI fucking Google Chrome is using hates him. And that's saying something. Millions of people find him insufferable. I'm not even sure if that's true, robot, but I like you claiming that it is. I'm glad we both can't stand him. Here's an excerpt of them talking about the shoe shopping, about the CCTV footage, the eyewitnesses who saw Chloe and Lucas laughing together in the village square.
But one of the reasons that people, I think, have been skeptical is because this information has come out that you lied to police about a pretty key
But it hasn't
moment.
just emerged, it was already in the police report. So they already knew about that. They're just trying to make me look like a bad person to get readers. That's what the papers are portraying the story into something it's not, and that's what's creating the
Well, the
doubters.
papers were portraying you with some skepticism, and then it emerges this week.
But it didn't emerge. It was already out there.
Well, it's been published this week, been reported that you lied to the police, and that's the problem, is that no one can quite get their head round why you would lie to the police about such a key thing.
I just brushed it off. I was shattered
But it's not
completely.
insignificant, is it, to be going shopping with one of the alleged kidnappers and buying new shoes?
No, but no one understands the reasoning. Unless you're in my position and actually went through what I've been through, no one can tell me how I should have behaved with a kidnapper or how I should be reacting now.
Exactly. At another point, Piers tells Chloe, if you're going to conduct media interviews where you're being paid money and you're doing a book for thousands of pounds before there's even been a trial, I think we're perfectly entitled to ask you difficult questions. And then Chloe says, if I was just a normal 20-year-old, not a 20-year-old model, do you think people would have the same opinions? The interview goes viral. And the comment section under the Good Morning Britain Facebook post tells you a lot about British sentiment surrounding Chloe Ayling at the time. But also, these are a lot of people who don't fucking hate Piers Morgan, which I think says a lot about them. If you're like, I fucking love Piers Morgan, I have concerns. I don't think you and I could ever be friends. But yeah, here's the sentiment. This certainly doesn't pass the smell test to me at all. If I had been drugged and kidnapped, I am more than 100% sure I would be more traumatized than she appears to be. Okay, it's a fucking hard take, Get her on the Jeremy Kyle show for a lie detector. I smell bullshit. Just a gold-digging, fame-starved wannabe. Don't believe her at all. You wouldn't be on TV if this had happened. And you wouldn't be dressed like how she's been dressed in all her interviews. Feel sorry for her child. Wonder who looks after him/her while she's doing all this. Yeah, how dare a mother work? She'll be on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here next year. Total lie. If found out to be lying, she should be banged up for real. Well, I hope other young models do not see her and her story as a way of making money. But she seems too relaxed and polished to be lying. But then again, this reminds me of Taken. Okay. While Chloe's appearing on television, negative personal stories are being leaked to the press. Her former boyfriend, Connor Keyes, the father of her young son, Ashton, tells the press, as I mentioned earlier, that Chloe has not come to see her son since she has returned. He, too, casts a shadow of doubt over her story and behavior. Then a Facebook detail emerges that that some of the tabloids cannot let go of. Chloe and Lucas had been Facebook friends for a couple of years before the kidnapping. Dun, dun, dun. That was really bad. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Still kind of bad. Chloe explains it the only way she can. She was naive, she says. If people wanted to be Facebook friends, fine. The more she had, the higher her profile. She accepted everybody. And I can see, to some, how that could have looked suspicious. However, a long time ago when I was trying to build up a Facebook profile, to raise my follower count before I ever had a fan page, I think before fan pages even existed, back when you had to accept or deny each person, I also accepted literally everybody. Because the more followers I had, the easier it was to get bookings and keep my career going. It was incredibly common. It was the norm back then to accept literally everyone if you're in her position. And the journalists, they fucking knew that. Around this time, Chloe dropped Phil Green as her agent, signed with a new representative, Adrian Sington of the Kruger Crown Agency. Sington is a publicity agent, not a modeling agent. His specialty is media strategy, book deals, and public-facing campaigns. And he brokered a book deal for Chloe with Blink Publishing. Phil Green also appeared on Good Morning Britain saying he was hacked off, aka very annoyed / angry, at being dropped as her agent. Chloe will later say that she dropped him as her agent because she believed he had compromised her safety by setting up a photo shoot that led to her being kidnapped. And I will say regarding that, he should have asked for referrals to speak with other models who'd worked for him, worked for this, Andre person. But he didn't. But that also might have been the industry norm. I've had a lot of agents over the years, and I have found most of them, frankly, to be fucking lazy. Way more talk than action. Not my favorite group of people overall. More concerned over, where they're having lunch, who they're being seen by, what they're driving, than, doing like real work. In the 2025 docuseries, Chloe Ayling, My Unbelievable Kidnapping, Chloe's new agent, Adrian Sington, describes the choice he and Chloe faced in their PR first agent-client relationship. Sington says he essentially gave Chloe two paths. She could become a poster girl for anti-slavery and women's abduction campaigns, or they could focus on making money and controlling the narrative, and Chloe chose the latter. And that choice would also prove to be controversial. How dare the young mother try and make money? To Chloe's critics, this was another sign of her ruthless ambition to become famous at all costs. A young glamour model abandons her old agent, signs with the publicist within weeks of the kidnapping. Dropping agents, by the way, when a better one comes along, standard practice in this industry. Chloe insisted she never really wanted the publicity, not for this anyway, that it was only after talking with Adrian that she decided that after having been through such a terrible ordeal, something good should come from it for her. What the public does not see in any of this is this version of Chloe that lived at home with her mom at this time. For the first few months, she told The Guardian in 2018, I stayed up while my mom slept and would then sleep during the day. Every little noise I heard at night, I would run into her room. At one point, I even pushed the chest of drawers against the door because I was so scared. For the rest of the year, leading up to a February 2018 trial in Italy for all this, Chloe kept herself busy, traveling a lot to Milan, to New York City, 3 times to LA, Miami, Vegas, Dubai, the Maldives, giving interviews, and also being paid for photo shoots. Her explanation outside of this literally being her job, quote, I've traveled so much to put it all to the back of my mind as much as possible. At some point during this time, Chloe heard that Lucas Herba was violently beaten in prison by other inmates because of his involvement in a crime against a woman. Hearing that scared her more, because in her head, Lucas still the man who saved her from Black Death, who she claimed she still believed in the existence of. If he was locked up, and worse, if he was getting hurt in there, who was going to protect her, she thinks. That fear allegedly lingered right up until the pre-trial hearing when the Italian police finally told Chloe the truth. The police sat her down and explained to her that she did not need to live in fear of Black Death because after months and months of looking into it, they were absolutely certain that there was no group of traffickers. Never was. No group of killers called Black Death. And you knew that by now, right? We all knew that. Chloe also learned that the photos of her lying on the floor, half naked and drugged and unconscious, were found on Lucas's phone. She was shocked. She thought, how is that possible? He wasn't even at the studio, right? That's what he told her. He told her so many lies. She also learned that the police had concluded that only 2 people were involved in her abduction, Lucas Herba and his brother Michael. There were never any Romanians. There was no second team, no mysterious criminal syndicate. Lukasz and Michael alone had orchestrated the entire thing. It wasn't until Lukasz's pretrial hearing that the remaining pieces for all this had fallen into place. The prosecutor revealed that Lukasz had bought the ski masks used during Chloe's abduction himself, matching the men Chloe described, that he had created a so-called Black Death pamphlet, right? That fucking weird document used to convince her that she was being held by an international trafficking network. They also presented drafts of ransom emails pulled from his computers, including one sent to her agent, Phil Green, a message Lukasz sent to his brother instructing him to, quote, clean the boot of the car so that her hair will not be found. Boot being the car's trunk. It strongly appeared that based on all the gathered evidence, his only real accomplice was his brother Michael. But Lukasz was not going down, without telling another story. It was leaked by his defense team that Lukasz would take the stand at his trial and claim he had fallen in love with Chloe and that the two of them had staged the entire kidnapping together, not as a hoax for notoriety, but as a desperate scheme to pull her out of financial trouble after the birth of her son. Lukasz was planning to testify that he had used his supposed involvement with Black Death to scare her into compliance. He wanted her to believe she was in danger so she wouldn't back out of this plan. What? That defense strategy is crazy. So she conspired with him to stage this kidnapping hoax to get publicity to then become famous and make more money modeling to provide for her son, but then changed her mind. And then he decided to scare her into going through with it anyway, despite being afraid that she's going to be raped and killed. And that's going to get him acquitted? What the fuck? Is his lawyer as stupid as he is? The trial of Lukasz Turba opens in Milan, February 7, 2018, and Chloe's not there. While the case first unfolds, she is reported to be in Switzerland, skiing. To her critics, yet another damning piece of evidence against her. Her lawyer, Francesco Pescia, he argued she should be excused from testifying that after 6 days of being terrorized, threatened with death, abused both mentally and physically, putting her in the same room as Herba would only re-traumatize her. Herba's lawyers fought that. They wanted her on the stand, but the court sided with Pescia and Chloe stayed away. The prosecution opened with prosecutor Paolo Starari, painting Lukasz as a, quote, fantasist. He is a fantasist with narcissistic tendencies. He is a mythomaniac adventurer. Now, he did say that he was a mythomaniac adventurer whose entire criminal persona was built on grandiose, self-inflated lies. Nailed it. The prosecution pointed to his tendencies to create elaborate, over-the-top stories, including the fact that he had actually built a website where he advertised women being sold to the highest bidder and described himself as a killer for hire who had worked for the FBI and the CIA and Mossad.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
This pattern of self-mythologizing, I think that's how you said that word, ran all the way down to the small details. Like on Facebook, where he claimed to be the chairman of that fake tech company, right? 1-800-BUSINESS, baby. And this was all before he had met Chloe. Yeah, again, this dude's fucking nuts. The court heard how Italian police recovered from Herba's phone and from his rented properties the following evidence. The 2 ski masks, again, Herba purchased before the kidnapping, matching Chloe's description of the men's masks who first grabbed her, photographs on Herba's phone of Chloe lying drugged, unconscious, partially nude, a printed Black Death pamphlet, the document Herba had used to convince Chloe she was being held by an international trafficking network, drafts of ransom emails, including the one sent to Phil Green, finally a recovered message Lukasz had sent to his brother Michael instructing him to again, quote, clean the boot of the car so that her hair won't be found. The court also saw the physical evidence, lab results reporting ketamine traces found in Chloe's hair, an injection mark from her right forearm, are into it, the deep bruising on her wrists and ankles. Lukasz's defense, led by Katia Kalawatska. Instead of denying the kidnapping, they accept that it happened. The evidence, the photos, the messages, the ransom emails, the ketamine traces, the ski masks, it all made it extremely difficult to dispute. The defense argued that the kidnapping was, in fact, a publicity stunt and that Chloe Ayling agreed to the scheme to boost her career. But if that was true, why make the stupid fucking Black Death pamphlet? Why email the brother to clean the car? Why actually inject her with ketamine? If they're all in on it, and it's just going to be a publicity stunt, isn't that a lot of overkill? Or at least like regarding the pamphlet, shouldn't she have taken it and given it to investigators, complete with having memorized some dark web addresses where they could then, punch that in, find this website or websites about Black Death, help build out its mythology, make it seem possible. This defense is weak as fuck. Also, if they were really all in on it, in no world does Lucas go with her to the consulate, right? He shouldn't be found, ever, if that's the plan. They should have never walked into the village, bought the shoes. All of that reeks of a weird, delusional guy trying to get her to fall in love with him as opposed to what the defense is claiming. Lucas's lawyers point to CCTV footage of her holding hands with him as they stop for shoes during captivity as proof, even though, as I just laid out, that actually hurts this claim, if you think about it for a few minutes. In Italian courts, defendants have the right to make a personal declaration without being cross-examined. Lucas Herba used that right. He claimed to have been in love with Chloe Ayling, telling the court, quote, "I never hurt the girl. I was not violent with her. If she felt forced verbally in any way, I am very sorry, but it certainly was not as Chloe has described. I was in love. I was hoping that once her fame took off, she would repay me with feelings. We would share the money." This guy is a fucking maniac. I hope many times that if she go famous, she repay me with feelings. I just want feelings with her and we share money. He said he met Chloe on Facebook in 2015, fell in love with her. He didn't meet her. She accepted your friend request, you fucking weirdo. He also said the two had met in person at least once before the kidnapping. Yeah, I bet you approached her on the street and were like, "Hi, are you Chloe?" And she's like, yes. And then, pew, just took off. Then during closing arguments, Lucas' lawyer cited an email she had received from U.S. film producers that Chloe's story closely matched the plot of a movie titled By Any Means, which was released only 8 weeks before the 2017 kidnapping. The IMDb log line for this film reads, "A C-list celebrity gets kidnapped and held hostage after a nightclub appearance. When the police interrogate the man she accuses, they question whether she's after justice or a front-page story." Here is the trailer for this extremely low budget, terribly mixed, abysmal-looking production that truly almost no one watched.
What's this for?
To prove you're alive.
Yes, hold it, nice.
Let's just bring it back to Mimi. What do you make of this media frenzy?
Oh, I think it's an absolute outrage. She's supposed to be America's it girl.
My name is Mimi Wyatt.
Mimi Wyatt? No way! For now, you've got to get out there more.
We've seen enough. It has no rating, or I listened to enough. It has no rating on Rotten Tomatoes because literally not a single actual critic ever reviewed it. It doesn't have an audience score because no audience members bothered to review it either, because it was never shown in theaters, never streamed on a proper platform. It basically might as well be a home movie. Lucas's defense argued that this movie that no one saw was their inspiration, and then Lucas himself confirmed that By Any Means served as a blueprint for what unfolded. I highly doubt he watched it. I highly doubt he would have ever even heard about this film had the film's actual producers, one of the fucking very few people, like a group of the very few people on earth who have actually seen this movie, if they had not sent him an email. Although one of two film festivals it was screened at was in Poland, but a small one, and he was living in England. In his closing speech, prosecutor Paolo Storari tore apart the publicity stunt defense by breaking down the numbers again. The £10,000 Herba spent on property rentals, travel, ski masks, fake studio. Then he turned to the court and asked, "Why would a man in love with a young model blow us over 10,000 euros on all of that? For a stunt, I would supposedly get him a nothing in return." He said it made no economic sense, made no sense of any kind, didn't add up. Paolo Storari requested 16 years and 8 months in prison for Herba, citing the very real possibility that Chloe could have died at numerous points. She could have stopped breathing from the ketamine, suffocated in that fucking bag in the trunk of the car. He argued the sentence needed to reflect not just what Herba did, but what could have happened. On June 18th, 2018, 4 months after the trial began, the Milan court delivered its verdict. The court found Lucas Herba is guilty of aggravated kidnapping for the purposes of extortion. He receives the recommended sentence of 16 years and 8 months. Lucas' defense lawyer, Katia Kolokowska, announced her intention to appeal, arguing the sentence should have been limited to 1 to 8 years, given that Chloe emerged unharmed. Chloe's lawyer, Francesco Pescia, announced that he would seek $500,000 in euros in damages in separate civil proceedings, although conceded that that was unlikely because Lucas would probably not be able to pay it. In a statement, Chloe said, "I'm so very happy this is all over. I'm very pleased and relieved by the outcome of today's hearing and feel that justice has been served and I can get closure on what has been a terrible time for me. I am desperate to put this ordeal behind me, move on with my life, and forge a new path now that the world can see I was telling the truth." Lucas' brother Michael also sentenced to 16 years and 8 months for helping kidnap and drug Chloe. Right, good, they're both dipshits. Both Chloe and her former agent, Phil Green, have since written memoirs about the ordeal. In July of 2018, Chloe Ayling's memoir, Kidnapped, The Untold Story of My Abduction, was published. Just weeks earlier, Phil Green published his memoir in Confessions of a Model Agent. In it, Phil insisted he did everything in his power to help Chloe. Writing about Chloe's time in Italy after the kidnapping, Phil described himself as her lifeline, saying her calls to him, sometimes 2 or 3 a day, lasted up to an hour each. But according to Chloe, she felt like she had no real option except to call Phil, since he was one responsible for booking her hotel. She also claims her mother told her that Phil actually had been rather difficult to deal with and had told her to stop calling while she was trying to find out where her daughter was. Chloe ultimately held Phil responsible for what happened, arguing that he had failed to carry out the basic checks any agent should have done before sending her abroad to meet a photographer she did not know. Phil, however, maintained he did everything he was supposed to do. August 16, 2018. Chloe entered Celebrity Big Brother UK as a day one housemate. During her short time in the house, much of the attention focused on her flirtation with former footballer Jermaine Pennant, who did not disclose to her that he was married. The two grew close, even breaking house rules by exchanging handwritten notes using Chloe's eyeliner. Chloe is ultimately nominated to be evicted by her housemates, who complained about her not participating in chores and general disengagement around the house. She was evicted on day 13, making her the second housemate to leave. After her eviction, Chloe said she was shocked to learn that Pennant had been married since 2014, insisting she had no idea he had a wife. Once again, this gives more fuel to her detractors, who continue to insist she was part of a kidnapping plot despite all evidence presented at the trial and the conviction of her kidnapper. They just think that she's a terrible human. January 2020, an Italian appeal court ruled to reduce Lucas Herba's sentence because he, quote, acted compassionately during the kidnapping. In its judgment, the court noted he had acted out of love, adding that he had not abandoned her in an isolated area when he released her and drove her to the British consulate in Milan. All right, this meant that Lucas would now serve 12 years in 1 month instead of 16 years and 8 months. I mean, I guess he did, return her. Maybe they thought that they're reducing the sentence would give future kidnappers incentive to, release people unharmed. I don't know. Next year, in March of 2021, a Milan appeal court cut Michael Herba's sentence all the way down to 5 years and 8 months, downgrading his conviction from kidnapping for extortion to simple kidnapping, since he was not the primary planner. And then Michael will end up being released 18 months earlier than that, back in 2024. I don't like it. Neither did Chloe. I think he should have been in prison for a lot longer. Ayling told the BBC of Michael in August of 2024, she added, the fact that they still don't take accountability and still want to make lies and not be responsible for what they did is even more annoying. Yeah. Backing up a bit, in April of 2023, BBC 3 announced a 6-part drama based on the abduction made with Chloe's blessing. English actress Nadia Parks played Chloe in the series. Ahead of the launch, Chloe said that she hoped the series, quote, encourages people not to doubt victims based on the way they react to a traumatic experience, based on the way they dress, their job, or what they did to survive. I hope it encourages people to look deeper than headlines, not to judge a situation or story based on what you read, not to be so easily influenced by media, and to keep an open mind before jumping to conclusions. Yeah, Piers Morgan, you daft fucking twat. 2 months after the BBC drama aired, Chloe's former agent, Phil Green, gave his most extensive interview yet to Lad Bible. He walked the reporter through the original Andre Lazio contact, the due diligence he says he carried out in the moment he received the Black Death email. Then he got to what everybody wanted to hear. What did he think of Chloe now? On the one hand, he said he was empathetic because there was no way the kidnapping was staged. But he was critical of what came afterwards. The way Chloe behaved post-release, Phil said, made it look as though she loved the attention, the press, the TV interviews, Celebrity Big Brother. In his view, she had made some bad decisions. And so no wonder people came away thinking she was just in it for the money. He also offered a theory about why she'd been targeted in the first place. Social media, Instagram in particular. Models, he said, put everything online, and he had no doubt the attacker had been following her. After seeing how large her audience was, assuming a bigger ransom was within reach, people don't always know who is watching them, he warned, and he thought that made it all a little dangerous. And I couldn't agree more with Phil there. That BBC drama still was not enough to convince everyone that Chloe was telling the truth. And so in August of 2025, a 3-part documentary referred to throughout this episode, Chloe Ayling, My Unbelievable Kidnapping, premiered on BBC 3 and BBC iPlayer. In its 3rd and final episode, the series surfaced something that reframed Chloe's entire experience. Something that I alluded to talking about before this episode was over, much earlier, right at the beginning of the timeline, the reason for Chloe's inability to pick up on certain social cues, why she trusted the wrong people, why she didn't show what other people thought were appropriate emotions, why she seemed so coldly logical when others thought she should be, more emotional. Chloe had been formally diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. It all started when a primary school teacher emailed Chloe explaining that she thought Chloe might have autism, that it could be affecting the way she behaved, and that was why people could not relate to her or understand her reactions to things, why she could not always understand why her peers behaved in certain ways. Chloe sought out an assessment, and the assessment came back positive. In the documentary, Chloe describes that for her entire life, she, quote, had a lot of difficulties with communication. If I was being told off, I would smile. I just had the wrong reactions to things. She added, for ages, I said, I'm not an emotional person, but now I realize that no matter how hard I try, I just can't show it. My calmness saved me in the kidnap, but it backfired in the press. So how about that, huh? Again, fuck you, Piers Morgan, you piece of shit. A guy who never apologized for tearing into her. Of course not, pompous ass. I would not give a shit if he was kidnapped someday. Right? Get him, Black Death, sell his ass. Not that you could probably get much for it. Chloe's diagnosis explained everything the British public had been bitching about. The chirpy demeanor in interviews, the smiling on her doorstep, the flat affect as she described her own trauma, the fact that she was, never very emotional on television, In 2025, Chloe told a journalist for Stylist magazine, autism plays a big part in the way that I reacted, and that was confusing to neurotypical people. However, there are other reasons why people could react in the way that I did, or in an unusual way that doesn't fit the normal box. People disassociate with events that have happened or have a delayed reaction, especially after trauma. So it can't all be put down to a diagnosis, and that shouldn't affect the way people treated me. Someday when I have more time, I would like to get tested myself. I have also been told that my own emotional reactions, especially by everybody I've ever been in a romantic relationship with of any significance, they are not normal. That my flat affect in certain situations where others are often emotional confuses people. That I have very delayed responses to things. In particular, I rarely express a lot of obvious excitement and joy over good news. Lindsay for sure thinks that I'm pretty autistic. And I've struggled with that, I guess, for a long time. I'm glad there's more terms for it now. We really do all have different kinds of brains that produce all different kinds of reactions to, similar events. In the documentary, Chloe says the fallout after the kidnapping had impacted her just as much, if not more, than the kidnapping itself. Even years later, she said she still got regular abuse online. People still call her a liar. Chloe also recently did something that, by her own account, brought her the closest thing to real peace she has felt since 2017. She moved away from the edge of London to Snowdonia, North Wales. Snowdonia, a mountainous, gorgeous region, a national park in North Wales, home to only 3 towns within the park's boundaries, a bunch more immediately beyond it. The most populous town has, not quite 3,000 people. Its awe-inspiring landscape is dramatic, rugged mountain ranges, jagged peaks, deep glacial valleys, waterfalls, lakes shaped over hundreds of millions of years, including by ancient volcanic activity. In the quieter months, especially midweek, the trails feel almost empty. So few live there that Chloe, people like her, they have the waterfalls, summits, lakes pretty much to themselves. For Chloe, the main appeal is the isolation and natural beauty. She found a house that she loves that overlooks the water. She bought it. Good on her. How often is her son there? Not sure. I didn't look that hard. She clearly wants to keep that part of her life private, and good on her. Lucifina is proud. And now, after that pretty happy ending to all this madness, let's get out of this timeline.
Good job, soldier. You made it back. Barely.
What an insane story. Such a unique and crazy convergence of a delusional, self-aggrandizing, pathological liar kidnapping a love interest who is neurodivergent in a way that makes it very hard for her to understand just how nonsensical and full of shit he is. Whew. Glad that did not end a lot more tragically than it did. Chloe Ayling has said in some of her most recent interviews that she can see in hindsight why many people have doubted her. She admits some of her own choices and inconsistencies didn't help, but also thinks the backlash went deeper than that. People saw her smiling, assumed that that meant she was not traumatized, and she says that a lot of the public judgment came from the fact that she was a model, and I think she's right. Go online and poke around. A lot of incel dudes love to hate on pretty girls. And so many insecure women also love to hate on pretty girls. I mean, holy fuck do they get it from all sides. It is truly pathetic. The fuck do you care if an influencer is wearing a tight tank top at the mall, showing some cleavage? Are you mad because you don't have her tits? Are you pissed because you know she'll never let you play with those tits? Either way, grow the fuck up, loser. Worry about yourself. Stop acting like a 5th grade bully. Stop being a pathetic keyboard warrior douche. Would you go up and say what you just typed to someone's face, in real life? No, then probably don't type it. I say a lot of shit, on here on this podcast it's negative, but I really try and limit it to people who act in negatively egregious ways, right? Looking at you, Piers Morgan. He would never give me the time of day, but I would fucking love to say a bunch of shit to his face. Even if you do go after Chloe, she probably won't care. She's pretty logical, analytic. She knows the odds are her life is probably better than yours if you're that kind of person, right? She's living in natural splendor in a home she owns overlooking the water, making good money, probably having hot sex. What are you doing with your days? Getting pissed off that mom burnt another casserole? Frustrated that your dick keeps getting chafed from beating off too many times with cheap lotion? Trolling is a dead giveaway that you're a miserable fuck and that your life is probably in shambles.
They give away. They give away. My neighbor got big testicles because we see this dude every day.
Every day. We riz with this dude. So interesting story, right? There are still questions that haven't been answered, at least not for some people. Why did Lucas truly let her go? Chloe still doesn't know. Maybe he believed they had a future together. Maybe he didn't know what to do next. Maybe he was just crazy. I mean, one of his demands was for Chloe to publicize Black Death, even though it doesn't exist, so he's truly nuts. The going theory is that Lucas Herba had orchestrated an extraordinary kidnap plot in an attempt to win the model's affection. Or perhaps kidnapped her in the hope of getting a ransom, but in the process of planning the abduction became romantically obsessed with her by posing as her savior. He was hoping that Chloe would fall in love with him and the two could start a relationship, and I feel like that is correct, right? He has some kind of serious personality disorder. He's truly mentally ill. I think he stalked her, kidnapped her, thinking that his batshit crazy ramblings would somehow get her to fall in love with him. His primary motivation, was to get $300,000. Or I'm sorry. His primary motivation was to get her to fall in love with him. His secondary motivation, to get $300,000. And then when the money was not going to come, he pivoted, hoped he could still at least get 50 grand. But most importantly, her undying affection and devotion. I think he's a dangerously deranged incel with no proper understanding of how romantic relationships work in real life. And to refer back to those Playboy models I worked with around the time Chloe was kidnapped, I remember a number of them talking about dealing with crazy stalker-type fans who are nuts like him. I feel bad for women in that way, right? There are a bunch of people out there, men and women, who just do not fucking get how life works. And they delude themselves into thinking that because somebody once accepted their friend request or liked their comment or replied to their DM that one time, that person feels the way about them that they feel about this influencer, model, musician, etc. And with female models, those fans highly sexualized, more prone statistically to violence. So if you're a sexy lady being sexy for a living, Lucifina begs you to be careful. There's a lot of variations of Lucas Herba out there. Looking back, Chloe wishes she had done things differently, was more protective of herself. She's a little older and wiser now. She's thought a lot about what, whether bringing somebody with her to that shoot, how that might have changed everything. Has anything positive come out of this experience? According to Chloe, it's made me a lot stronger, and I'm a lot wiser. I'm more paranoid and cautious. Good, Chloe. I hope you thrive. If you're not thriving, you're dying! Time for today's takeaways.
Timesuck Top 5 Takeaways.
Number 1, Chloe Ayling grew up in Colston, South London, raised largely by her mother, single mom, became a mom herself as a teenager, gave birth to her son, Ashton. She was barely a year into her modeling career when she was taken. She'd been working the glamour and page 3 end of the industry and signed with Phil Green's agency in pursuit of bigger jobs and a bigger social media following. Number 2, Chloe was abducted in Milan, Italy in July of 2017 after being lured to a fake photo shoot, grabbed by 2 masked men, injected with ketamine, stuffed into the trunk of a hired car, trunk of a car, and then driven to a remote farmhouse near Turin, where she was held for 6 days. Her captors claimed to be working for a dark web crime syndicate called Black Death, who one of them said would auction her off as a sex slave unless $300,000 US was paid as ransom. But the Black Death does not exist. The whole thing was an elaborate plot orchestrated by 2 brothers, Lukasz and Michael Herba, because Lukasz had fallen in love with a model he did not know. Number 3, Chloe Ayling's primary kidnapper, Lukasz Herba, was a Polish computer programmer who prosecutors determined to be a narcissist, a fantasist obsessed with concocting elaborate, delusional, fanciful stories in which he always emerged the hero. Dude was a one-man killing machine, in his mind, in reality, a sad, insufferable, delusional loser. Number 4, despite her criminal conviction confirming her account, large parts of the British public refused to believe Ayling had been kidnapped at all. The doubt centered on her demeanor. She smiled, posed for photographers, was unemotional, retelling her story. To many, this behavior read as, somebody who had staged the whole thing for publicity. To Ayling, it was the behavior of someone doing whatever it took to survive, by making her captor believe that she had feelings for him too. In a documentary about her case, Ayling revealed she had been formally diagnosed with autism. The diagnosis offered a new framework from which to assess her supposedly odd behavior. And number 5, new info. Want to support Chloe's modeling career today? Well, she's on OnlyFans, at Barely Chloe, offering some kind of limited free trial for 30 days, over 1,000 pieces of media, all natural peach and melons, according to her emojis. I'm probably not promoting this well. If you think it's weird that I'm promoting her OnlyFans, please hear one last reference to my days working with the Playboy models. They were only paid, I think, $100 in appearance to come on the show. They were not paid more when their photos were repurposed online or, magazines sometimes. Some of them also did porn, were paid next to nothing for that. Even when they were flown to exotic places for photo shoots, they were often not paid much more than travel expenses. But the people who took their pics, the people who made the videos, well, they got to monetize that content however they wanted in perpetuity. Prior to OnlyFans, exploitation in adult content was off the fucking charts. Everybody was making money except the women getting naked. So many horror stories. But with OnlyFans and similar sites, suddenly models like Chloe, they got a way to monetize their social media followings. Suddenly they don't have to be taken advantage of by some shady producer or shady agent, of which there are many. They get to keep 80% of their subscription costs. Idiotic moralists want to destroy sites like OnlyFans and I guess just let those women be financially taken advantage of again. Same mentality people have with abortion, right? Shutting down abortion clinics doesn't end abortion, just pushes it further into the shadows where it's infinitely more dangerous. Porn will never, ever, 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 ever go away. So to me, the obvious, maybe autistically and unemotionally logical choice is to not push it into the shadows. Let somebody like Chloe control her own narrative, her own business, right? Control every aspect of her own photo shoots, to own the content, buy her own equipment, own her own studio, hire her own camera operator, or just do it herself. Never have to worry again about working for some psychotic creep who might rape her or kill her or pretend he is going to auction her off to Black Death. Hail Lucifina, motherfuckers.
Timesuck Top 5 Takeaways.
Black Death, the bizarre kidnapping of Chloe Ayling has been sucked. Thank you to Bad Magic Productions for the team here for help making Timesuck. Thanks to Queen of Bad Magic, Lindsay Cummins. Thanks also to Logan Keith, helping to publish this episode, designing the merch for the store at badmagicproductions.com, where, again, you can get those summer camp tickets. Thanks to Laura Woods for the initial research and letting me know about this topic. Also, thanks to the All Seeing Eyes, moderating the Cult of the Curious private Facebook page, the Mod Squad for making sure Discord keeps running smooth, and everybody over in the Timesuck subreddit and Bad Magic subreddit. And now let's head on over to this week's Timesucker updates.
Updates? Get your Timesucker updates.
Mathematical meat sack Michael Broughton sent a message to Bojangles at timesuckpodcast.com with the subject line of 2 out of 3 stars versus 3 out of 5 stars. One of many people, I should add, who wrote in with a similar message. Mike wrote, "Damn it, Dan, 3 out of 5 equals 0.6 or 60%. 2 out of 3 or 0.667 or 66.6%. Hail Satan. He rated you higher, not lower. Not sorry at all. Mike, former math teacher. I suspect the new fan who wrote in also is." God damn it, Mike. I was so confident when I acted like 2 out of 3 stars was less than 3 out of 5 stars. Fucking fractions. This reminds me of a story that my son Kyler likes to tell. In the 1980s, to compete directly with McDonald's wildly successful Quarter Pounder, A&W introduced a 1/3 pound burger for the exact same price, offered more meat, even beat the Quarter Pounder in blind taste tests. Despite that, the burger flopped. Why? Fractions. A&W hired a market research firm to investigate the poor sales, found that a large number of customers incorrectly believed that a Quarter Pound burger was bigger than a 1/3 pound burger because the number 4 is bigger than the number 3. And I've laughed at that so many times, and then I did the same shit, thinking for a second that because 5 is bigger than 3, 3 out of 5 must be bigger than 2 out of 3. Dunce cap activated. And now for something silly. Known drug user, Lee Stamper, sent in a message with a subject line of acid and sharks. This in regards to me talking about how tripping on acid actually sometimes reduces my anxiety. and I was able to tread water out in the ocean because everything felt so beautiful. When sober, there's no fucking way that happens ever. Lee writes, "Hi, Dan. You mentioned being terrified of sharks, so I decided to share this story. In my early 20s, my whole extended family rented out some cabins at Pacific Beach in San Diego. I decided to do acid, swim in the ocean, combining two of my favorite things. I'm not afraid of sharks, but the whole time I was in the water, I was convinced I was going to be eaten by sharks. Every piece of kelp that touched my legs sent me into a panic. But I was too scared to go back to shore because I didn't want my family to see my eyes and know I was on something. So I spent hours during the peak of the trip just floating, terrified that sharks were going to eat me. At one point, a few of my cousins swam out to me and I kept swimming away from them so they wouldn't know I was tripping, which was ridiculous because they would not have cared at all. And really, that just made me seem like a complete weirdo. At some point, I became aware I was getting very sunburned and needed to get out of the water, and an idea struck me. If I wear sunglasses, nobody will see my eyes. Such a good idea. So I threw my shades on and I went back to my family. I love that took you hours to come up with that when you were tripping. I went back to my family and nobody noticed a thing. The downside was that I saw my sunburn in the bathroom mirror and spent the next few hours convinced I'd permanently disfigured myself. The takeaway here is that apparently my social anxiety overwhelms any fear of sharks. I was willing to die rather than have an aunt or uncle know that I was on acid. Thanks for everything you do. Sincerely, Lee." Oh man, thanks, dude. Thanks for sending in that message, Lee. It really made me smile and laugh. So funny to think that you were truly willing to be eaten by sharks rather than have some family members find out you were tripping balls. And now one more. From Furious Sack, Megan Magley. Sent it with a subject line of, "How dare you make me feel my feelings?" And then Megan writes, "Hey, Dan and everyone at Bad Magic, fuck you. Apologies for coming in a little hot. I just listened to the Big Wheel Short Suck. And even before I listened, when I read the notification about a new episode, when it popped up on my phone early, because I'm a space lizard, hail Nimrod, I started crying. Let me explain. My dad used to beat the shit out of me with the big wheel for fucking 7 straight years. He would nearly kill me. No, she didn't write that. Let me explain. My dad used to talk about being a kid, maybe 3 or 4 years old, and this story about his big wheel toe. Basically, it was run over by those whack-ass tricycles and was all fucked up ever since. And it's at least partially to blame for my serious aversion to feet because his toe and specifically toenail were nasty. Obviously, it wasn't a big injury, but the way he talked about it, you would think he had lost his whole toe in an accident. And he fully blamed my grandma, his mom, for letting somebody run over his foot and not taking him to the hospital. I'm pretty sure he was just joking whenever he said that, but it got a rise out of her. Anyway, he passed away suddenly 3 years ago at the end of May. So your timing for this episode is just impeccable. I usually get some kind of anniversary grief around this time, but I thought I was ready for this year. So well done, you son of a bitch. You got me. Seriously, though, I do want to actually thank you for this surprise grief. To me, grief is love persevering. I loved my dad, and I know if he were still around today, he would have gotten a kick out of you talking about a toy that ruined his kickball toe. Thank you for everything you do for our community and for our listening pleasure. Can't wait to make everyone uncomfortable with my dead dad jokes at camp. Megan Magley. Aw, Megan, I'm sorry for your loss, but thank you for the message. I love your thoughts about grief. Yeah, it's love persevering. How great to have the honor of loving someone so much it physically hurts when they're gone. How great to be loved by someone so much. You make them feel something powerful physically. You move them to tears. Tears of longing, but also tears of just real love when you leave. May we all be loved by somebody that much, and may we all love someone that much. And that's hilarious about the big wheel accident. We've gotten lots of big wheel messages after that suck. A lot of meat sacks. We're lucky enough to have Knight Rider big wheels. I went into a toy store in Boise with Lindsay and Monroe the other day before my nephew Emerson's graduation party. Proud of you, Em. And they had a new big wheel in the box. I just stared at it and smiled. Man, I loved that toy, was so memorable that it hit so hard. That mangled toe was worth it for your dad. I bet he had some great times on a big wheel when he wasn't getting run over by one. Rest in peace, Megan Magley's dad. Save a spot in the next world for the rest of us, or say hello here if you're cycling back through. Hail Nimrod, everybody.
Thanks, time suckers. I needed that.
We all did.
Hello. Thank you for listening to this Bad Magic production. If you have a second, please go ahead and rate us online, rate and review if you haven't done that before. And don't start spending months this week planning an elaborate kidnapping hoax in order to get rich and have somebody you desire fall in love with you. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to find love. You are going to find prison. You are going to be mocked. Just get a job, learn how to save, learn how to date, put in the work, have some basic, decent hygiene. Don't be a fucking dipshit, and keep on sucking.
Magic Productions.
Attention. This MD, level 20 Black Death agent. Don't act like you have not heard of Black Death. You surely have seen one of our many pamphlets. We're the most powerful, ruthless, mostly Romanian group of psycho killer kidnapper sex traffickers in the world. Call the police, I dare you. Tell them you heard about the MD, level 20 Black Death agent. What they gonna do? Arrest me? Act like I could not literally murder them all? I've killed thousands. What's a few more? Question. Do you know where your mom is? Your wife? Your daughter? Answer. Wherever I allow them to be. If I want them, I get them. You're not gonna be able to stop me. I'm part of Black Death. Biggest, scariest part. Don't piss me off. You piss me off. I auction off the entire family into sexual slavery. I forget my accent sometimes. Into sexual slavery on dark web. One by one. I make you watch whole time. I need $300,000. I'll get $300,000 pop for them. When my clients know that we'll feed them to tigers. Why? Because that's how we do Black Death. One more thing. Does this all sound cool to you? You want to be Black Death agent too? Heads up, man. You want to be Black Death? You start at level 1. Level 20, probably out of reach forever. Well, if you want to try and hang with me, email me, fucking dude. My brother. Our clandestine, very large organization at I am very dangerous and tough at blackdeath.biz, okay? Thank you for attention to this matter. It's a jazzy little jam.